Chapter 7:12. The girl looked at her post with a smug look on her face. She edited the picture and sent it directly. After the post was edited, it immediately appeared on the campus forum. Let's go and take a look. After the girl posted the post, she gloated and looked forward. Around them, the students were slightly shocked when they saw the two war chariots stopped in front of Wang Xian and the rest. They quickly looked over. Damn it. Mu Zidao and Ming Feng went to look for trouble with senior Wang Xian. Let's hurry over, bastard. Do you think you can bully others just because you are a disciple of the Celestial sect? This is bad. Let's hurry to the entrance of the school. Sai, what can we do if we go? Mu Zidao and Ming Feng are disciples of the Immortal sect. Their statuses are noble and their strength is terrifying. They can seriously injure us with just a wave of their hands. Moreover, they won't be punished. At this moment, after the post was published, it immediately attracted the attention of many students. Seeing the information on it, many students instantly revealed embarrassed expressions. The news spread quickly in the class WeChat group, and a group of students rushed to the school gate. The first and second year girls were very excited. They didn't expect their Prince Charming to be so awesome. Prince Charming must have seen the posts in the forum and come out to fight for us. A group of young girls thought excitedly and quickly ran toward the school gate. All of a sudden, all the students who received the news rushed towards the entrance. At the entrance, Wang Xian looked at the puppet war chariot that was parked beside them and sized him up curiously. Mu Zidao and Ming Feng, who were sitting inside, sized up Wang Xian with their eyes. The corners of their mouths curled up slightly. The few people in the chariot got off. Mu Zidao raised his head slightly and looked down at Wang Xian arrogantly. You're that Wang Xian, the so-called Dragon King of the Dragon Gate. Gulp. Wang Xian, let's not argue with them. Let's leave this place. Beside them, a few students in the class saw Mu Zidao and Ming Feng and the rest. They gulped and their eyes were filled with fear. They tugged at Wang Xian's arm and whispered. Hee hee. Wang Xian chuckled and nodded to the students beside him. Then, he walked straight out. Stop, did I let you leave? Mu Zidao and Ming Feng raised their eyebrows slightly when they saw Wang Xian ignoring them and leaving. Liang Guan, who was beside them, shouted at Wang Xian with a cold expression. His eyes were filled with coldness. What happened in the martial arts club today had caused him to lose all his face. He was extremely furious. Now that he saw Wang Xian's cold expression, he was even more furious. That Wang Xian actually wants to leave. Looks like he's cowardly. He's really cowardly. He doesn't even dare to face Mu Zidao and student Xian Feng. They are on completely different levels. When the surrounding girls saw this scene, they revealed a mocking expression, especially the girl who posted on the forum. She was even more excited as she kept taking pictures with her phone. Her face was filled with disdain. We didn't come to look for you because of some famous person in the school or some Prince Charming. It's meaningless. Mu Zidao saw Wang Xian turn around with a slight frown. He stared at him with a condescending gaze. Today in the martial arts club, you embarrassed our junior brother and even claimed to be the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate. You are a force in the Jianghu. Since you dare to cause trouble in our territory, if we, the Ming Wang Immortal sect, don't show our respect, everyone will think that we are a coward. Your strength is not weak, at least not below the Dan stage. We came to look for you with no other intentions. Since you dare to cause trouble in our Ming Wang Immortal sect's territory, then let's have a spar. Loser, if you see the other party in the future, get lost. If you see our Ming Wang Immortal sect's disciples, lower your head. His indifferent voice sounded in the surroundings and entered everyone's ears. It was obvious that he wanted everyone to hear it. How domineering, how domineering. Student Mu Zidao is simply too handsome. This is the demeanor of a disciple of an immortal sect. If only I could marry into an immortal sect. Wang Xian is also a martial artist. His strength isn't weak. However, it's obvious that he can't be compared to Mu Zidao. Furthermore, he can't be compared to the Ming Wang Immortal sect. When the crowd heard Mu Zidao's words, all the girls revealed looks of admiration. There were also some girls who had helpless expressions. The high and mighty immortal sect. Senior Wang Xian was going to be in trouble this time. Your territory? When Wang Xian heard his words, his eyes flickered slightly. The territory of the Ming Wang immortal sect. In the past, everyone in Jiang City knew whose territory it was. Now, someone actually said that it was their territory. Our territory. This is the territory of our Ming Wang immortal sect. How dare you bully our junior brother in our territory? Come, let's spar. Let me see how capable you are. Mu Zidao raised his head slightly and stared at Wang Xian with disdain. This is not your territory. Wang Xian stared at Mu Zidao and said slowly. A hint of coldness flashed across his eyes. Senior Wang Xian, this is not your era anymore. Do you think it's still the same as before? I heard that Senior Wang Xian used your RV to crush 4 multimillion-dollar sports cars. At that time, Jiang City University was your territory. Now. Hee. The enchanting girl next to him crossed her arms and said with a face full of mockery. Her voice was very loud and could be heard by the surrounding people. Oh. So only by crushing the opponent's car with a luxury car can you say that this is our territory? However, this method is indeed impressive. At this moment, obviously Feng heard the words of the girl next to him. His face was full of smiles. He moved his body and got into the puppet chariot. Then I shall use this senior's method to prove that this is our territory. Ha ha. Ming Feng laughed out loud. The war chariot suddenly let out a loud roar. What is student Ming Feng trying to do? He is trying to use the war chariot to hit Wang Xian's chariot. The war chariot he is sitting on is a war chariot. Even a tank is not as tough as the war chariot he is sitting on. The surrounding students were shocked and looked at him in astonishment. So this is the proof. Mu Zidao's face was filled with mockery as he watched obviously Feng get into the war chariot and start it up. Wang Xian stood at the side and didn't say anything. He looked at him coldly. Boom. At this moment, the war chariot emitted a faint golden glow. With a starting distance of at least 300 to 400 kilometers, the war chariot headed straight for the RV at the side. The puppet war chariot was only half the height of the RV, but its terrifying hardness and strength directly cut the RV in half at the waist. There was no trace on the puppet war chariot. Mo Qinglong, who had been sitting in the RV, had a hint of killing intent in his eyes. However, the Dragon King didn't ask him to make a move, and he didn't make a move either. However, Tian Go, who was lying on the chariot, had a fierce look in his eyes as he slowly walked out. Chapter 7:13. Boom. A rumbling sound was heard at the entrance of the school. At this moment, more than 1,000 people had gathered around the school. Wang Xian's RV was smashed in the middle, causing everyone to gasp. They looked at the beast-like puppet chariot in shock. Obviously, student Feng is too cool. Wow, I love him to death. HMPH, this is the difference. That Wang Xian doesn't have any ability to fight back. The two of them are not on the same level. He is also a popular figure in the school. He is not even worthy of carrying Mu Zidao's shoes. The excited voices of the first and second year girls could be heard from the surroundings. The third and fourth year students sighed helplessly. Wang Xian was indeed not on the same level as the celestial sect. He could not be compared to them at all. There was nothing they could do after being humiliated today. Roar, woof woof. At this moment, the sound of dogs barking was suddenly heard. It caused the people around to be slightly surprised. A golden figure of about 2 meters in size was standing at the spot where the RV was split open. His fierce gaze was staring at the obvious wind and the puppet chariot that he was sitting on. However, everyone in the surroundings ignored him after a glance. How is it? Is this our territory now? If you don't dare to spar with me, then lower your head and admit your mistake. Mu Zidao stared at Wang Xian mockingly. From the beginning to the end, he didn't put Wang Xian in his eyes. So what if he was at least at the Dan stage? The Dragon Gate of the pugilistic world and the Dragon King? What the hell was that? Compared to him, who was at the half step to the infant stage, and the Ming Wang immortal sect, what was that? You still have the right to spar with me. Wang Xian swept his gaze across Mu Zidao and Ming Feng who was sitting in the puppet station. A hint of coldness flashed across his eyes. Tian Tian, teach them a lesson. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly as he said faintly, "Huh." Wang Xian's words made Mu Zidao and Ming Feng's eyebrows twitch. The people around them were also stunned. However, at this moment, roar, roar, roar. The heavenly dog's low roar was heard. Following that, before anyone could react, a terrifying aura was emitted from its body. Woof woof. It roared and pounced on Ming Feng, who was sitting in the puppet chariot. Hey! What? Ming Feng was stunned. When he saw the aura of the heavenly dog, his expression changed. The white sword in the chariot was pulled out. However, at this moment, the heavenly dog landed on the puppet chariot. It raised its paw and waved it. Boom! The entire chariot was torn apart. Ming Feng's expression changed as the sword in his hand shone with a white light. However, a dog claw swung over once again. The terrifying power caused a hint of despair to appear on Ming Feng's face. The long sword in his hand flew to the side. The clothes on his upper body were torn apart, and 3 wounds appeared on his chest. A mocking and disdainful look appeared in the heavenly dog's eyes. It opened its mouth and bit towards Ming Feng's shoulder. Ming Feng's face was instantly filled with cold sweat as the light energy on his body trembled. However, in an instant, the dog's mouth directly bit onto his shoulder, causing the light on his body to immediately dim. Ah! Ming Feng let out a blood-curdling scream as he swung his head upwards. With a wave of his dog claws, the clothes on his lower body were instantly shattered into strips of cloth. 3 more wounds appeared on his body. With a sweep of his tail, Ming Feng's body smashed towards Mu Zidao. In an instant, from the moment the heavenly dog's attack ended, only an instant had passed. Everyone in the surroundings widened their eyes in disbelief. Ming Feng, an elite disciple of the Immortal Sect, was actually toyed with by a dog. He didn't have the slightest bit of strength left to resist. How was this possible? Ah, beast. When Mu Zidao saw Ming Feng smashing towards him, his expression changed greatly and he immediately caught it. However, at this moment, the heavenly dog moved. It waved its claws and clawed towards Mu Zidao. Go to hell! Mu Zidao's expression changed greatly. The long sword in his hand instantly turned pure white. It was extremely dazzling as it slashed towards the heavenly dog. Bang! The long sword collided with Tiango's claws, producing a sound of collision. A trace of disdain flashed in Tiango's eyes. With a slight force, the spirit sword directly flew towards the sky. With a wave of its dog claws, a wound appeared on Mu Zidao's body from top to bottom. His clothes also instantly split open. Tiango repeated the action of attacking with obvious wind. Its body leaped and bit towards Mu Zidao's shoulder. No, no! Mu Zidao's face was filled with fear. He waved his fist and wanted to smash towards Tiango's head. Tiango's eyes revealed ridicule. He didn't dodge at all and continued to bite towards Mu Zidao's shoulder. When Mu Zidao's fist landed on the dog's head, it instantly became numb. At this moment, he felt that he had ascended into the sky. Hiss! With a wave of the dog's paw, his elegant and unworldly clothes had already formed into strips. It couldn't cover his body at all. Pang! His body landed beside Ming Feng. Infant tear, it's actually an infant tear creature. Ming Feng had recovered at this moment. He raised his head and shouted loudly with a face full of shock. When the heavenly dog heard Ming Feng's cry, it raised its head slightly. Its eyes were filled with human-like contempt. It slowly walked towards the 2 people like a dog king. Don't kill us. When Mu Zidao saw the heavenly dog walking over, his face revealed a terrified expression. The disdain and contempt in the eyes of the heavenly dog became even stronger. It walked over and waved its paw, drawing 3 bloody marks on their buttocks and buttocks. Following that, the heavenly dog quickened its pace and ran to Wang Xian's side. It bit its tail and spun around him. Not bad. Wang Xian stroked Tian Tian's dog head in admiration and praised him. Woof woof. Tiango stuck out his tongue and licked it. He barked and raised his head slightly as if he was very proud. Gulp. I saw something. How is this possible? How is this possible? The people around them were in disbelief, especially the girls who were in their first year and second year. They looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. What did they just see? A dog had completely defeated Mu Zidao and Ming Feng. He had easily trampled on their Prince Charming with his dog paws. He was the invincible disciple of the immortal sect in their hearts. Meanwhile, that dog was wagging its tail in front of Wang Xian, the young man whom they looked down on and called unworthy of Mu Zidao and Ming Feng carrying their shoes. Mu Zidao and Ming Feng are actually inferior to his dog. One of the girls widened her eyes as she looked at this scene in a daze. The contrast, the huge contrast. Just as they were about to watch the so-called famous person being easily crushed by Mu Zidao and student Xianfeng, they were easily killed by the opponent's dog. The two of them looked like they were in a sorry state, and everyone's eyes were filled with shock. Chapter 7:14. You can only leave after I repair my car after I come back from my meal. Otherwise. At this moment, Wang Xian's voice sounded. Everyone slowly turned their heads and looked at him. Especially the girls who were in their first year and second year. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. Their expressions were very interesting. Otherwise, you guys will become its dinner. As Wang Xian spoke, he patted the dog's head gently. Woof woof. The dog turned its head and barked. Its gaze was fixed on Mu Zidao and Ming Feng, who didn't have much clothes on the ground. Once again, it walked over arrogantly with its head held high. No, don't come over. Let's fix the car. Don't come over. Mu Zidao clearly saw Tian go walking over, and his face revealed a terrified expression. It was an infant tear dog. If this dog really wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. They simply didn't have the ability to resist. Tian Go completely ignored them. He slowly walked over and lifted his leg. The two people's bodies immediately trembled. Tian Go opened his huge mouth and directly bit on their thighs, dragging them toward the crashed RV. The terrified screams came from Mu Zidao and Ming Feng. Their bodies were trembling. Their naked bodies were rubbing against the ground. When everyone saw this scene, the corners of their mouths couldn't help but twitch. The girls who were in their first year and second year covered their faces. This was their Prince Charming. He was even worse than Wang Xian's dog. Their expressions changed drastically. In their hearts, the Prince Charming was not as good as a dog. It was easy to imagine how upset they felt. Senior Wang Xian is Senior Wang Xian. He is simply too awesome. Haha, he is too awesome, too awesome. That dog is so strong. The disciples of the celestial sect were actually knocked down to the ground without any ability to resist. You still want to spar with student Wang Xian? Just like what student Wang Xian said, you guys don't even have the qualifications. You can't even defeat the dog raised by student Wang Xian. Yet, you still want to provoke student Wang Xian? Is this your Prince Charming? Haha, I'm dying of laughter. His body is quite white. When the surrounding juniors and seniors saw this scene, the grievances in their hearts were completely released. They looked at Mu Zidao and Ming Feng, who were trembling as they stood up. Meanwhile, the heavenly dog sat on the ground and stared at them. It was obvious that it was supervising them to fix the car. Mu Zidao and Ming Feng, who were covered in dirt and injuries, were trembling as they looked at the damaged RV. Their hearts were trembling as they clenched their fists tightly. However, they didn't dare to show it at this moment. There was a terrifying dog staring at them from behind. Infant stage. His fucking dog was actually in the infant stage. Then, what was the strength of that Wang Xian? What kind of power did he have? A hint of fear flashed across their eyes when they thought of this. Let's go and eat. Wang Xian said to Wang Dahai and the rest who were beside him. Boss, you are too awesome. Yes, it's Wang Xian. Wang Dahai and the rest of the students were also shocked. They nodded quickly and followed behind Wang Xian. A year ago, the 4 second-generation rich kids were also looking for trouble with Wang Xian. The consequences were tragic. A year later, the second-generation rich kids were replaced by elite disciples of the celestial sect. The consequences were still the same. One of the students sighed slowly. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at Wang Xian. Wang Xian had left. From the beginning to the end, he did not make a move. Everyone did not know his strength, but they knew that he was definitely very, very strong. Mu Zidao and Ming Feng, two powerful disciples of the Celestial sect, were not qualified to spar with him in his eyes. His dog had completely defeated the two of them. It was obvious who was superior. The one who was not even qualified to carry his shoes was not Wang Xian, but a high and mighty disciple of the Celestial sect. Everyone looked at Wang Xian's figure and thought to themselves. He was still as mysterious and powerful as ever. The girls who were in their first year and second year looked at their Prince Charming, who was standing beside the RV with his ragged body. He no longer had the haughty temperament of a prince. He was not even comparable to a dog. On the contrary, the figure that had left became even taller. When they heard the ridicule of the surrounding seniors, their faces turned red. As for the girl who had been updating on the forum, her face was extremely pale. Many people knew her name on the school forum. She could already imagine the mocking gazes and gazes of the people in the future. She stood there stiffly and looked at her two miserable bodies. She held the phone tightly in her hand. "Boss, you are simply too strong. A dog has the strength of an infant stage. Oh my God, I'm worse than a dog." Walking on the ancient street, Wang Dahai said excitedly to Wang Xian. "Dahai, if you are worse than a dog, then what are we? You have already joined the Celestial sect." A classmate beside him said with a bitter expression. "Comparing people is so infuriating." Wang Dahai shook his head and said with a dispirited expression. "Hey, what kind of shop is that?" At this moment, Wang Xian looked at the shops around him in astonishment. Puppet shop, fitness shop, martial arts bookshop, martial arts club. Wang Dahai's gaze swept across the shops and said, "These are all shops opened by the Immortal sect. There are puppets, elixirs, secret cultivation manuals, and teaching martial art." When the Immortal sects merged with the world, they also needed money to buy mobile phones, computers, and other daily necessities. Hence, some Immortal sects opened their shops and sold some things to ordinary people. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. Although the Immortal sects were good, many things were not as powerful as they were in the modern world. For example, mobile phones, computers, kitchen utensils for daily use, refrigerators, and a series of other items. They needed to purchase all of them. This was a huge expense for them. Hence, Immortal sect opened a shop to sell elixirs, dregs, and medicinal liquids that were not even level 1. Although they were useless to martial artists, they were of great use to ordinary people. If they wanted to, they had to spend money to buy them. The changes are really fast. Wang Xian sighed slightly. Yes, in a year's time, our world has undergone tremendous changes. Wang Dahai also sighed slightly. All of you wait here for a moment. I'll go and call my girlfriend. When he arrived at the entrance of the first-grade pavilion, Wang Xian said to Wang Dahai and the rest. Then, he walked to the Divine Dragon Clinic at the side. Sun Lingxiu stood at the side with a smile on her face. She was now half a step away from becoming an immortal. Her body exuded a holy aura that made people feel ashamed of themselves. Her perfect figure was dressed in simple white clothes. "Lingxiu, come and eat." Wang Xian waved at Sun Lingxiu. "All right, Xiao Xian. Xiao Hong, come and eat too." Sun Lingxiu nodded and said to the bloody miracle doctor at the side. Yes, it's master." The miracle doctor immediately walked out with a big smile on his face. "Oh, Wang Xian, this is your girlfriend." "Isn't your girlfriend?" When Sun Lingxiu walked out, Wang Dahai and the rest were dumbfounded. Chapter 7:15. Hello, I'm Sun Lingxiu. Sun Lingxiu saw the shocked expressions of the students behind Wang Xian and greeted them with a faint smile. Sun Lingxiu's smile was like an angel's smile, causing everyone behind Wang Xian to be stunned. Hello, sister-in-law." Everyone nodded their heads and greeted enthusiastically. "The girlfriend of little fairy that you guys are talking about should be Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyu. I am one too. In fact, there is another one. Perhaps there will be another one soon." Sun Lingxiu smiled slyly as she held Wang Xian's arm. Everyone was completely stunned. They knew that Guan Shuqing was Wang Xian's girlfriend. They were not sure if Lan Qingyu was his girlfriend. Now, another one had appeared, and there was even one or two of them. Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyu were the goddesses of Jiang City University. In terms of beauty, they felt that the beauty in front of them was even more beautiful than Lan Qingyu and Guan Shuqing. Awesome. In an instant, the way everyone looked at Wang Xian changed. Wang Dahai kept giving him a thumbs up with a face full of exclamations. All right, let's go in. Wang Xian rubbed Sun Lingxiu's hand, causing her face to turn red instantly. She glared at him. Wang Xian chuckled and let her tease him. Welcome. As they walked into the shop, the welcoming voices of the guests could be heard. The two guests at the door were obviously new and didn't know Wang Xian. Boss, you're here. It was the cashier at the front desk who recognized Wang Xian and said in surprise. Where's Manager Huang? Wang Xian nodded and asked her. I'll go get Manager Huang. The cashier immediately walked toward the back office. Soon, Manager Huang walked out. His eyes flickered when he saw Wang Xian. He walked over with a smile and said, Boss, you're finally back. Yes. Wang Xian nodded. He had not been in the shop for more than a year and the staff had changed a lot. Prepare the largest private room and send some dishes over, Wang Xian said to Manager Huang directly. Boss, the largest private room has been reserved. Manager Huang was slightly stunned when he heard Wang Xian's words. He said with a frown. Tell them about it. If it doesn't work, give them some discounts. Dahai, bring them in first. You know the largest private room. Wang Xian patted Wang Dahai's shoulder. All right. Wang Dahai nodded and waved to the students behind him with a smile. Then, he walked upstairs. Boss, I'm afraid it won't work. At this moment, Manager Huang suddenly said. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and looked at Manager Huang. Boss, the people who booked the seats today are from the Puppet Immortal Sect. Manager Huang frowned and said. No matter who the other party is, find an excuse and tell the kitchen to prepare some dishes as soon as possible, Wang Xian said directly to Manager Huang. Then, he brought Sun Lingxiu upstairs. Manager Huang opened his mouth and revealed an embarrassed expression. He walked into the office with a gloomy face. No one knew what he was thinking about. Xiao Xian, Manager Huang's expression has changed. At this moment, Sun Lingxiu suddenly said to Wang Xian. Yes, it has changed. Sun Lingxiu was a light attribute cultivator. She could see many things from a person's eyes. With Wang Xian's strength, he also noticed some changes in Manager Huang. However, Manager Huang has followed me for more than 2 years. As long as there are no mistakes in principle, he will be in charge of this restaurant. Okay. The two of them walked into the private room and sat at the dining table. They started chatting with their classmates. They talked about the interesting things that had happened in the past year and the disciples of the Mingwang Celestial Sect. When the dishes were served, everyone was very happy. Bang bang. Boss. At around 8 o'clock, Manager Huang knocked on the door and walked in. What's the matter? Wang Xian looked at Manager Huang and asked. Boss, the disciples of the Celestial Puppet Sect are here. There are more of them and they insisted on having this private room. Manager Huang frowned and said to Wang Xian. Didn't you explain it to them? Wang Xian frowned and the smile on his face disappeared. Manager Huang, have I made my decision? Tell your boss to hurry up. At this moment, an impatient voice came from outside. The door was pushed open and 2 young men in ancient costumes stood at the door. There was a hint of impatience on their faces. All right. Master Ping, please wait for a moment. I'll make it available for you immediately. Manager Huang hurriedly said to the young man outside in a flattering manner. He turned his head to look at Wang Xian and said, Boss, they are from the Immortal Sect. I will get someone to check the accounts of the time I left for more than a year. If there are no problems, I will give you a few 100,000. If there are any problems. Wang Xian interrupted Manager Huang and looked at him coldly. Now, you are no longer the manager here. Get out. Boss. Manager Huang's expression changed drastically when he heard Wang Xian's words. His expression changed drastically as he turned to look at the young man outside. When Wang Xian saw that Manager Huang was actually asking for help from the young man at the door, his eyes turned even colder. "I say, you are the boss of this restaurant, right?" The two young men raised their eyebrows slightly when they heard what was said. They stared at Wang Xian as he walked in. "Speak." Wang Xian looked at them and said coldly, "We are the disciples of the Celestial Puppet Sect." As the two of them spoke, they raised their heads slightly and revealed a superior expression. "Boss, they are from the Immortal Sect." "We." Manager Huang squeezed out a smile from the side. It was obvious that the world had changed in his opinion. Currently, the world belonged to the Immortal Sect. The reason why he dared to disobey Wang Xian was because he had a good relationship with the disciples of the Puppet Immortal Sect. He didn't know that Wang Xian was the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate. In fact, none of the first-grade pavilion's employees knew about it. They only knew that the boss had great influence in Jiang City. However, that was in the past. Things were different now. Now, the Mingwang Immortal Sect and the Puppet Immortal Sect were the kings of Jiang City. "This is my restaurant," Wang Xian said to them coldly. "Haha, interesting, interesting." When the two young men heard Wang Xian's words, they didn't get angry. Instead, they smiled and walked towards Wang Xian. "Do you know whose territory this is?" A young man dressed in ancient costume smiled and stared at Wang Xian mockingly. It was the same sentence again. "Whose territory is this? Whose territory is the current Jiang City?" This was the second time Wang Xian heard this sentence from a disciple of the Celestial Sect. It seemed that he, the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate, had been away from this place for too long. "This is not your territory. Get out." Wang Xian looked at the two young men and said expressionlessly, "Kid, you're acting too big. How dare you chase us out?" The two young men stared at Wang Xian coldly. "Today, get out of this private room immediately and prepare some dishes for us to serve." "That's right." As they spoke, the corners of their lips curled up slightly. "Let the few beauties in the room serve the dishes for us." Chapter 7:16. Get the beauties in the room to serve us the dishes. The two young men in ancient costumes stared at Wang Xian with a look of disdain and said in an overbearing manner, "Boom." However, at this moment, the bloody miracle doctor who was sitting at the side started to move. His hands landed on the dantian of the two young men in ancient costume without any hesitation. The powerful force caused them to fly out in an instant. The two young men, who were still acting cool a second ago, flew out in the next second. The arrogant smiles on their faces had yet to disappear when their faces turned stiff and they vomited blood from their mouth. "You want my master to serve you food?" The bloody miracle doctor's cold voice was heard. Bang! The two young men fell heavily on the wall with a loud bang. "Boss! They are the disciples of the Celestial Sect." Manager Huang was stunned for a moment before he shouted at Wang Xian in a low voice. "Who is it? How dare you beat up the people of our Celestial Sect? You are courting death." At this moment, 7 to 8 people came in from outside. They looked at the two young men in ancient costumes who were lying on the ground with a cold expression. Their eyes were fixed on Wang Xian and the rest. They moved their bodies and were about to attack. "Cripple them all," Wang Xian said with a solemn face. "All right, a bunch of trash at the Xiantian level dares to be impudent here?" A look of disdain appeared on the bloody miracle doctor's face. Now that his strength had reached the half-step infant stage, it was a piece of cake for him to deal with a bunch of Xiantian experts. Boom! 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 Ah! The bloody miracle doctor turned into a blood-red shadow and instantly, screams of pain could be heard. The disciples of the Puppet Immortal Sect widened their eyes in shock. Their dantian had been crippled. They dared to attack the disciples of the Puppet Immortal Sect, especially here in Jiang City. They were simply courting death. "Boss, you actually..." Manager Huang's face was also filled with fear. His face was instantly covered in cold sweat. "Throw them out." Wang Xian stood up slowly and said to the bloody miracle doctor. "All right." The bloody miracle doctor nodded obediently. "You actually dared to cripple us. We are the disciples of the Puppet Immortal sect. You guys are done for. You guys are done for. The group of young men were still filled with disbelief as they shouted loudly. Keek, Puppet Immortal sect. I've been wanting to beat you guys up for a long time after seeing you guys flaunting your might. The godly doctor of the bloody figures smiled sinisterly and immediately tied them up. Dahai, you guys can eat here first. I need to settle some matters first. Wang Xian said to Wang Dahai and the rest. He gave manager Huang a cold glance before walking down. Sun Lingxiu also smiled at Wang Dahai and the rest before following them down. When the students saw this scene, their faces turned stiff. Dahai, Wang Xian is actually crippled. He crippled a disciple of the celestial sect. Will something happen to him? In the room, the students looked left and right with worry on their faces. Nothing will happen to him. All of you don't know Wang Xian's strength. Nothing will happen to him. Wang Dahai's heart was beating fast, but he still said with a smile. Wang Xian was a little impatient with what he had encountered today. He was also very disappointed with manager Huang. The word whose territory made him feel very interesting. He took out his cell phone and dialed Elder Qin's number. Little brother Wang Xian? Elder Qin was a little excited when he received Wang Xian's call. He asked tentatively, Elder Qin, sorry to bother you. Wang Xian revealed a smile on his face. No. I'm already very happy that little brother Wang Xian didn't forget about me. Little brother, you have disappeared for more than a year. When are you returning to Jiang City? Elder Qin said loudly in a carefree manner. I'm in Jiang City now. You're already in Jiang City? Where is little brother Wang Xian? If you're free, come and meet me, this old man. Okay. Wang Xian smiled and pondered for a moment. Elder Qin, I'll have to trouble you with one thing. Send a few accountants to the first-grade pavilion now. Also, Elder Qin, please inform all the martial artists and aristocratic families in Jiang City. I'll prepare a Dragon Gate banquet tomorrow. Dragon Gate banquet. Elder Qin was slightly shocked when he heard Wang Xian's words. The Dragon Gate banquet would be held for all the martial artists and aristocratic families in Jiang City. All right, brother Wang Xian, don't worry. Leave it to me. As long as the martial artists and aristocratic families are still in Jiang City, I will give them an invitation card. If the location is at Old Man Shui's 5-star hotel, how about it? Elder Qin said loudly. Yes, that's fine. Boss Qin, I'll see you tomorrow. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. It's been a long time since we last met. The accountant will be in the first-grade pavilion in 20 minutes at most. Wang Xian hung up the phone and revealed a smile on his face. Beside him, manager Huang's face turned slightly pale when he heard Wang Xian's words. His eyes were sparkling. Dragon King's banquet. In a villa in Jiang City, Boss Qin sat on a chair and muttered, the current Jiang City belongs to the two immortal sects. The Dragon King of Dragon Gate has returned. Perhaps, the miracle will continue. Elder Qin knocked on the table and stood up immediately to prepare for the Dragon Gate banquet tomorrow night. The Dragon King had returned. The King of River City had returned. Wang Xian sat in his office and pondered. Manager Huang didn't come in and left the first-grade pavilion with a guilty conscience. Wang Xian didn't stop him. An ordinary person wouldn't be able to escape. If not for manager Huang's meritorious service, he would have been lying here long ago. With the appearance of the 9 cauldrons, some ingredients with spiritual energy are already available. Although the first-grade pavilion is still the best restaurant in Jiang City, it is already very ordinary in the entire Huaxia. Furthermore, there is no need to keep this first-grade pavilion open. Wang Xian looked at his computer and clicked on the messages. Since he could open a shop in the 9 cauldrons world to earn money, he might as well start his own business. It would be a profitable business. Wang Xian smiled. Alchemy and crafting. He could open an alchemy and crafting shop. He could only undertake the crafting of elixirs above level 6 and spirit weapons above level 11. To Wang Xian, this was a huge profit. It was even more lucrative than going to the immortal sect to rob. Give the employees here a repatriation fee and close the first-grade pavilion. Wang Xian made a decision in his heart. Just as Wang Xian was thinking, the accountants sent by old Qin arrived. Wang Xian asked them to check the accounts of the entire first-grade pavilion. If manager Huang was clean, he would give him a sum of money. However, if he was greedy during the 1-year period when he was away, he would make him cough up all the money. The 4 accountants kept checking the accounts. In less than half an hour, all the accounts were out. There was a huge problem. Wang Xian shook his head slowly. He made a phone call to old Qin and asked him to handle manager Huang's matters. There might be a lot of people coming to the Dragon Gate banquet tomorrow. I wonder how many martial artists still respect him as the Dragon Gate. I wonder if there will be other people coming tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it. A smile appeared on Wang Xian's face. Sun Lingxiu, who was at the side, walked over and gave him a gentle massage on his shoulder. Chapter 717. At this moment, in the Yellow Cauldron region, Yellow Sky City was one of the 3 major cities in the Yellow Cauldron region. It was also a city under the jurisdiction of the Yellow Sky Immortal sect. The entire city was like a luxurious ancient capital in ancient times. Large red lanterns hung in front of the ancient buildings. At night, the entire city was filled with a unique style. In a luxurious restaurant in Huangtian City, the 3-story restaurant was packed with people. Sect Master Xiao Yu, Elder Fan, where have you been for more than a year? We've been worried to death. That's right, that's right. It's been almost a year and a half since we last saw each other. On the 3rd floor of the restaurant, more than a dozen people were sitting at a table. In the center, Xiao Yu and Elder Fan were chatting with the people of the Thorn faction with smiles on their faces. Xiao Yu had once been the sect leader of the Thorn sect, and Elder Fan had stayed in the Thorn sect for more than 10 years, so their relationship was already very deep. Therefore, the first thing they came to see was the disciples of the Thorn sect. Sect leader Tang, how are you doing in the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect now? Xiao Yu asked with a smile on her face. Not bad, not bad. Back then, we cultivated under the spiritual energy waterfall for a period of time, and many disciples broke through to the Xiantian realm. Now, I've also reached the half-step Dan realm, so I'm in charge of some things in the Immortal sect. It's not bad. Sect Master Tang smiled. Now, our cultivation speed is much faster than before. We can be considered to be running errands for the Immortal sect. Xiao Yu and Elder Fan nodded. They also knew that Xiantian experts were very common in the Immortal sect. If they were not people from the real world, the Immortal sect might not even accept them. That's good. If you have anything to tell me, Xiao Yu said with a smile. Oh right, when the Sui clan and the Xiao clan come over later, Elder Sui and Elder Xiao have already reached the half-step infant realm. They can be considered experts. They are doing quite well in the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect. A middle-aged man at the side said with a smile, especially Xiao Ran of the Xiao clan. He has given our people in the real world a boost in face. An 18-year-old expert at the peak of the Dan realm is also the best in the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect. I heard that Xiao Ran obtained a good result in the monthly competition of the disciples of the Immortal sect today. Is that so? If Xiao Ran can be nurtured by the Immortal sect, he can at least become an infant stage expert in the future. Xiao Yu nodded. When he thought of his brother's disciple, a smile appeared on his face. I have nothing to say if I lose. What? Are you still not convinced? If you are not convinced, we can fight again now. I'll defeat you next time. Haha, alright little guy, I came to find you for no other reason. The wind green pill in your hand can't be used. I'll buy it. 8,000 spirit stones. 8,000? I won't sell the wind green pill. I'll only exchange it for fire attribute pills or pills that can increase one's cultivation. Kid, it's useless even if you take the pills. I advise you to sell them to me. So what if I don't sell them? Then I'll have to have a good spar with you in the future. Haha, Xiao Ran, you can't use medicinal pills either. I advise you to sell them. A foreign brat who doesn't know how to adapt to the situation, how can you survive? Everyone, don't make things difficult for my Xiao Ran. In the future, when I refine some medicinal pills, I'll definitely give them to all of you. HMPH, just you. You're already over 100 years old. Refining a grade 5 medicinal pill is already difficult. When you can refine a grade 6 medicinal pill, this young master will have broken through. Xiaoran, I'm warning you today. Sell the medicinal pills to me and we can talk about anything. If you don't sell them, wait and see in the future. At this moment, Xiao Yu and the others who were sitting on the third floor heard the voices of conversation coming from below through the windows. It's Xiao Ran and Elder Xiao. Sect Master Tang was slightly stunned and said with a frown. Xiao Yu frowned slightly and immediately went to the window to look down. He saw a group of young men and women standing in front of the group of people from the Xiao clan and Sui clan. Those young men and women exuded strong confidence and pride as they stared at Xiao Ran. Xiao Ran's expression was somewhat awkward as he stared at them with a face full of anger. Good, you don't agree, right? Very good. Then we'll see what happens in the future. The young man who was only half a meter in front of Xiao Ran stared at him. When he saw that Xiao Ran did not agree, his face revealed an ice-cold expression. Let's go. There's still plenty of time in the future. We'll teach this kid a good lesson in the future. A long-haired young man with a face full of smiles as he hugged a sword and said to the people beside him. There were 8 or 9 people in the surroundings. One of the young men was holding a game console in his hand. He kept his head down as he played games and didn't pay attention to the things around him. Beside him stood a classical beauty who would occasionally look at the young man playing games. The surrounding young men were all smiling as they watched this scene. After the long-haired young man finished speaking, he coldly snorted and turned around, preparing to leave. This caused Xiao Quanshan to sigh helplessly. Xiao Ran's talent was terrifying, even surpassing the disciples of the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect. However, they were outsiders after all. Not only did the disciples of the Immortal sect reject them, the entire Immortal sect also rejected them. After all, they were not on the same side. Heh! How dare you bully my brother's disciple? Xiao Yu stood on the windowsill as she watched this scene. An angry expression appeared on her face. Her gaze swept past the group of youths and landed on the fellow who was playing a game. It was very familiar and left a deep impression on her. A trace of coldness appeared on Xiao Yu's face. Her body moved and she directly jumped down from the window on the 3rd floor. You guys, stop right there. Xiao Yu shouted loudly and directly jumped in front of the group of young men. Her cold gaze swept over them. Is it so easy to bully my brother's disciple? Everyone below was stunned. The members of the Xiao clan of the Sui clan, who were standing at the side, opened their mouths in shock. Martial aunt. Xiao Ran was also stunned. He looked at Xiao Yu with a face full of shock and immediately walked over to call out. Did these guys bully you? Today, martial aunt will take revenge for you. The corners of Xiao Yu's mouth curled up slightly as he looked at the young man who was playing the game seriously. His eyes were filled with mockery. Martial aunt. The most outstanding disciples of the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect were slightly stunned as they stared at Xiao Yu in bewilderment. A little girl is actually Xiao Ran's martial aunt. How interesting. The eyes of the young man who had been talking to Xiao Ran earlier were filled with ridicule. He held a golden long sword in his hand and had very few eyebrows. When he smiled, he gave off a feeling of ridicule. Interesting, isn't it? There will be more interesting things later. Now, immediately apologize to my martial nephew. In the future, if I find out that you dare to bully him, don't blame this great aunt for being impolite. Xiao Yu coldly swept his gaze across the 7 or 8 of them and berated. Haha, interesting. A little girl actually dares to make a ruckus in front of us. Do you know who we are? Haha. The youth holding the golden sword stared at Xiao Yu with a face full of laughter, his face full of ridicule. Chapter 7:18. I don't care who you are. If you don't apologize, I'll teach you a lesson today. Xiao Yu waved his arm, and a black bone whip appeared in his hand. He stood in the middle of the road with a cold gaze, sweeping his gaze over the people around him. This scene stunned everyone around him. Yellow Heaven City was very close to the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect. It was only 4,000 to 5,000 meters away. Basically, apart from the stewards of the Immortal Sect and the disciples who worked hard in cultivation, most of the disciples of the Immortal Sect lived in Yellow Heaven City. It was the busiest time of the night, and there were a lot of people around. The disciples of the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect looked at Xiao Yu, who was standing in the middle of the road, in astonishment. Where did this wild girl come from? Judging from her clothes, she should be from the real world. This wild girl actually dares to provoke Kong Leshan, Tang Jiming, and the others. Hey, the Crown Prince is here too, the one who has his head lowered and is holding a game console. The Crown Prince is here too? Seriously, this wild girl is too bold. She came to our Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect to cause trouble. Isn't she just looking for trouble? It seems that this girl wants to avenge one of her juniors. She even wants to challenge Kong Leshan and the others. How ignorant. These young men are the most elite disciples of our Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect. It seems that other than the people ranked 2nd and 4th, more than half of the top 10 disciples of the Immortal Sect are here. Most importantly, the Crown Prince is also here. The surrounding disciples and family members of the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect looked at them and pointed at them as they spoke. If it weren't for the fact that Xiao Yu was a pretty little girl, they might have already said some nasty word. Little girl, I think you need to be taught a lesson. The young man with the golden sword in his hand saw Xiao Yu take out the bone whip, and his face turned cold as he said with a sullen face. Fight, fight, fight. The boss is dying. At this moment, the youth who was playing the game console pressed the button excitedly and said in a low voice. However, the few of them were already used to hearing this. HMPH, I see that you guys need to be taught a lesson. And you, this fellow. Xiao Yu snorted coldly. The bone whip in his hand moved and directly attacked the golden sword youth. You're courting death, you little girl who needs to be taught a lesson. The golden sword young man's face went cold, and the golden long sword in his hand instantly unsheathed, directly slashing towards the bone whip. There were even numerous sharp wind blades surrounding the long sword. You, scram. Xiao Yu's eyes revealed a trace of disdain, and the bone whip shook, causing the young man who hadn't even reached the infant stage to have a huge change in expression. The bone whip lashed onto the long sword, causing his arm to instantly go numb as it directly coiled around his arm. Xiao Yu lightly pulled. Ah! The golden sword young man let out a miserable cry as his body directly crashed onto the ground. En. The young man and the girl who were prepared to watch the show at the side were stunned, and their expressions changed. Stop. The gazes of the two young men were grave as the long swords in their hands slashed out one by one towards Xiao Yu. I'm scared. The bone whip shook, and the demonic chi on it instantly shattered the wind sword. The bone whip was like a venomous snake, slashing out numerous phantoms. In an instant, the bone whip coiled around their legs. Feather lightly pulled. Bang bang. The two fell heavily to the ground. With Feather's current half-step immortal god strength, these so-called heaven-chosen disciples of the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect were completely crushed. They couldn't even see the shadow of Xiao Yu's attack. You people still want to teach me a lesson? Xiao Yu's face revealed a look of disdain. With a wave of the bone whip in his hand, he instantly attacked the young man who was playing the game console. Pa! The young man who was holding the game console with both hands was instantly stunned. Ah, I'm about to clear the level. The boss is about to die. Damn it. The young man exploded in anger as he stood beside Xiao Yu. The girl beside him was also stunned as she opened the fan in her hand. How dare you disturb Lingtian's game? The green energy emitted from the fan as the girl stared at Xiao Yu coldly. Not only am I disturbing his game, I want to give him a good beating. The bone whip in Xiao Yu's hand did not stop, and once again swung towards Ling Tian. You dare to disturb me? You're looking for a beating. Ling Tian raised his head with a fierce expression, and the 6 spiritual weapons in his interspatial ring instantly appeared. However, the moment he raised his head and saw Xiao Yu, he could not help but retreat backwards. It's you, witch. He let out a sharp voice as though his anus had been blown open as he stared at Xiao Yu with bloodshot eyes. Little slave, we meet again. Xiao Yu looked at the terrified expression on Feng Lingtian's face and the corners of his mouth curled up, full of mockery. He swung the bone whip in his hand. Fuck. Feng Lingtian could not help but curse. The 6 spirit weapons spun rapidly and formed a 3 to 4 meter long windshield. You actually dare to attack Lingtian? The expression of the girl beside him changed slightly. With a wave of the fan in her hand, a wind attribute fan shot towards Xiao Yu. Get out of my way. Xiao Yu waved his arm, and with a wave of the bone whip in his hand, the fan in the hands of the girl was sent flying. Little slave, I said that I would beat you up every time I see you. Xiao Yu's voice rang out again. It seems like you are some crown prince of the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect. How dare you let your Yellow Heaven Immortal sect bully my martial nephew? You are really looking for a beating. Motherfucker. When Feng Lingtian saw Xiao Yu's bone whip coming at him again, he could not help but raise his eyebrows and grit his teeth. His eyes widened. Which, you think I can't beat you? In this 1 year, I have specially cultivated a battle technique that can counter your whip. I will teach you a good lesson today. Teach me a lesson, and today, I will make your buttocks blossom. Xiao Yu's face revealed a mocking expression as she waved the bone whip in her hand once again. You shut your mouth for this young master. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, the 6 long swords transformed into thousands of wind swords that shot towards Xiao Yu. Feng Lingtian gritted his teeth and instantly flew 20 meters into the sky. A small trick. Just a piece of trash like you. You haven't improved at all. Xiao Yu smiled. Compared to a year ago, Ling Tian's strength had increased by quite a bit. However, compared to her improvement, Ling Tian hadn't improved at all. A year ago, Xiao Yu's suppression of Ling Tian wasn't that strong. At that time, if Ling Tian wanted to escape, Xiao Yu wouldn't be able to catch up to him. But today, Ling Tian was completely crushed. Ling Tian, who was filled with fighting spirit, thought that he could take revenge today. Roar. The bone whip in Xiao Yu's hand shook, and a terrifying demonic chi instantly condensed into the ferocious head of a bone dragon. Peng peng peng. The tens of thousands of wind swords were instantly shattered. Xiao Yu leaped, and the bone whip in his hand shot towards Feng Lingtian. The bone whip grew longer. Fuck. Feng Lingtian's face turned black when he saw that his attack, which was almost comparable to a peak-level attack, was shattered. Chapter 719. That young lady is so powerful, she actually easily defeated Kong Leshan and the others, and she actually fought together with the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince obviously knows that young lady, and he even fought before. Why does he listen to the Crown Prince's words? It seems like he suffered a loss with that young lady. Although this young lady is powerful, but if she wants to defeat our Crown Prince, that's... fuck, you're hitting my butt again. You demonis, I'll fight to the death with you. On the surrounding streets, a group of Yellow Heaven Immortal sect disciples and their family members looked on in shock when they saw Xiao Yu instantly defeating Kong Leshan and the others. When they saw that the young girl was actually fighting with their Crown Prince, shock appeared on their faces. Everyone started to discuss. However, before they could finish their words, a miserable voice came from the sky. Everyone widened their eyes as disbelief appeared on their faces. You hit my butt again. This word again is the key. You have to strike it down. A young man below gulped and said in a daze. The Heaven's chosen disciples of the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect who were standing next to Feng Lingtian raised their heads and revealed expressions of shock. This was especially so for the 3 young men and women who were instantly defeated. Their eyes were filled with shock and their expressions were somewhat ugly. This young lady is so strong. Even the Crown Prince was completely suppressed by her. One of the Heaven's chosen disciples opened his mouth slightly. The wind is cold, the water is cold, and the autumn wind is cold. At this moment, Feng Lingtian's voice came from the sky, and the leaves in the sky fell. The green leaves were formed from wind attribute energy, and they rotated slowly, emitting a terrifying attack power. You still have time to use your ultimate move. Xiao Yu looked at Feng Lingtian who was standing in the sky with concentration, and a trace of mockery appeared on the corner of her mouth. Her body moved, and she directly charged over with a strong defense. Pa pa pa. The leaves on Xiao Yu's body made a crisp sound as the black bone armor on her body repelled the sharp leaves. Fuck, it's this terrifying defense again. Feng Lingtian looked at Xiao Yu who was charging forward and could not help but twitch his lips. With a wave of his arm, tens of thousands of leaves flew towards Xiao Yu. Shadow Bone Whip. Xiao Yu waved the bone whip in his hand, instantly turning into hundreds of them. Each of them was like a terrifying poisonous snake that spread across a radius of a few thousand meters. Pa pa. The leaves were easily sent flying. The two bone whips wrapped around Feng Lingtian's body, causing his expression to change drastically. Pa. Ah. A crisp sound rang out on the streets of Yellow Heaven City. The people below could see that Feng Lingtian's pants had been torn to shreds. White flesh was revealed from within. Everyone below was stunned. This was the Crown Prince, their Crown Prince. The Yellow Heaven Immortal sect only had one immortal god expert, which was Feng Lingtian's father, a middle-level immortal. Feng Lingtian was the Crown Prince of the entire Yellow Heaven Immortal sect. But now, their Crown Prince had been beaten up by a young girl, and it was even a whip. This. How many times have I told you not to hit me there? You. I can't afford to offend you, can I not hide from you? Feng Lingtian's face was extremely red. He touched his back and felt traces of bulging blood as he gritted his teeth. Xiao Yu's attack wasn't very heavy, but that was the case. Seeing this girl humiliate and trample on him, Feng Lingtian felt like he wanted to die. He was the Crown Prince of the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect, the most monstrous heaven's son in the entire Yellow Cauldron. This was already the second time he had been whipped by this girl. The first time was outside, he warned everyone not to tell anyone about this matter. But now, it was actually inside Yellow Heaven City. Under the gazes of everyone. Feng Lingtian felt extremely aggrieved. He couldn't afford to provoke her, but this young master could hide. Hide? Do you think you can hide? Xiao Yu's face was filled with mockery. If this young master can't hide, then I'll be at your disposal. Feng Lingtian gritted his teeth and moved like a gust of wind. This time, your brother isn't here. If you want to capture this young master, you must be dreaming. Evasive Shadow Technique. This is the evasive shadow technique created by sect leader Feng Ying. It can burst forth with a terrifying speed. Once the evasive shadow technique is used, it can disappear without a trace. I didn't expect the Crown Prince to be forced to this extent by a young lady. The crowd below saw Feng Lingtian evading and said in slight shock. Then let's give it a try, little slave. Xiao Yu's face revealed a mocking expression. The bone whip in his hand immediately lengthened as he attacked Feng Lingtian. Haha, little demoness, if you want to catch me, don't even think about it for the rest of your life. Feng Lingtian's figure moved and easily dodged Xiao Yu's bone whip. His sullen mood was finally eased and he began to mock. Is that so? Xiao Yu's expression did not change. He did not retract the bone whip in his hand. With a wave of his arm, a bone whip condensed from demonic chi instantly attacked. Haha, if you can't hit it, are you angry? The bone whip was once again evaded, and Feng Lingtian mocked loudly. Xiao Yu's expression turned slightly angry when he heard the taunts. He stretched out his 10 fingers and a bone whip formed from devil chi appeared from his body. It instantly covered an area of 5,000 to 6,000 meters in the sky. Little witch, I'm right here. Come, hit me. One had to admit that Feng Lingtian was extremely despicable, as he evaded Xiao Yu's terrifying attacks and laughed out loud. Little slave, you won't be able to escape now, right? Xiao Yu's mouth revealed a crafty smile as she pulled her arm, and the bone whips that had been gathering in the sky and had not been retracted quickly surrounded Feng Lingtian, sealing off all directions. Fuck, you crafty demoness. Feng Lingtian's expression changed drastically. The 6 long swords around him slashed towards the bone whips in an attempt to escape. Boom. But in an instant, Feng Lingtian's voice was flung towards the ground. His body landed on the street, instantly causing a crack to appear on the street. Ah, fuck. A painful voice came from her mouth. Xiao Yu landed with a smile on her face, the bone whip in her hand completely wrapping around her body. With a move of her palm, a bone whip formed from devil chi was formed in her hand and she directly struck towards Feng Lingtian's back. Little slave, do you admit defeat? You witch, I am a 7-foot tall man. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Feeling the pain from his back and butt, Feng Lingtian almost cried. Even his father had never hit him like this before, and now, he had already lost to a woman twice. He had no way of resisting at all. Especially this time, under the watchful eyes of everyone. Who is causing trouble in Yellow Sky City? You're courting death. At this moment, an earth-shattering shout rang out, and a number of Yellow Sky City guards who were flying on swords flew over slowly. Chapter 720. Who is causing trouble in Yellow Sky City, courting death? The shout attracted the attention of more than half of the people in Yellow Sky City. The experts from Yellow Sky Gate who did not know what was happening on the other streets were also slightly curious, and their eyes revealed a trace of coldness. Yellow Sky City will soon welcome the people in the real world. The issue of public security cannot be neglected. Who dares to cause trouble here? Some of the higher-ups of the immortal sects also moved and flew towards the direction where the guards of the Yellow Sky City were flying towards. In an instant, dozens of experts at the Dan stage flew over. Outsiders? They dare to play around here? The group of Yellow Sky City guards who flew over saw the clothes Xiao Yu was wearing and the people on the ground who were trapped by his bone whip. Their eyes flashed with killing intent. Quickly save Ling Tian. Ling Tian is being controlled by this witch. Hurry up and kill her. The scream of a girl could be heard and the girl who was standing beside Feng Lingtian shouted loudly. What? Crown Prince. The group of Yellow Heaven City guards were stunned and immediately looked towards Feng Lingtian. At this moment, Feng Lingtian was in an extremely sorry state and there were many wounds on his buttocks. It was impossible to tell that he was their crown prince. However, the few spirit swords on the side allowed them to recognize that he was their crown prince. Everyone's expression changed drastically, and their faces immediately sank. Attacking the crown prince, and you guys are still watching from the surroundings. You deserve to die. The surrounding immortal sect disciples and family members were stunned. They opened their mouths, wanting to explain. You dare to attack our crown prince. You're courting death. At this moment, the surrounding immortal sect experts flew over. When they heard the voice, their faces were filled with shock. Terrifying energy instantly erupted from their bodies, and the spirit tools in their hands emitted a sharp light. Everyone, our eldest princess is merely sparring with him. Don't be so anxious. At this moment, the 10 Draconids saw the aura of the surrounding people. Their bodies moved, and they stood in a circle around Xiao Yu with smiles on their faces. The aura of an infant realm expert was slowly emitted. Hey! Sensing the aura of the 10 Draconids, everyone around them was slightly shocked. Their faces revealed a grave expression. The atmosphere instantly froze. The eyes of the experts from the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect around them revealed a cold look as killing intent brewed in the air. What are you all so nervous about? I'm just sparring with this fellow. It's not my first time sparring. Feeling the atmosphere around him, Xiao Yu chuckled. With a flick of his arm, he pulled the bound Feng Lingtian up and stared at him. Are we sparring? Look at how nervous the people here are. This isn't sparring. This is. Pa. Feng Lingtian's face was unyielding as he glared furiously at Xiao Yu. However, before he could finish his words, a bone whip struck his butt. Ah, fuck, is this a spar or a spar? I say, great aunt, I admit defeat. Being directly whipped on his buttocks in public, Feng Lingtian was so aggrieved that he almost wanted to cry. He immediately begged for mercy. You still dare to hit our crown prince? An elder revealed an angry expression when he saw this scene. He was about to attack. Wait. At this moment, a figure flew over and shouted. Elder Feng. Everyone saw the old man and shouted respectfully. Feng Jinqing nodded slowly and looked towards the street. When he saw Feng Lingtian who was tied up by the bone whip, his mouth could not help but twitch. He looked at Xiao Yu with a bitter expression. This lady, we meet again. Hello, old man. Xiao Yu looked at Feng Jinqing's gentle expression and smiled politely at him. Miss, can you let our crown prince go first? Feng Jinqing looked at Feng Lingtian's body and heaved a sigh of relief. His brows twitched. The surrounding Yellow Heaven city guards and the experts from the immortal sects were stunned when they saw that Elder Feng knew this young lady. They then looked at their crown prince. It looked like his clothes were badly beaten, but in fact, they were all superficial wounds. He would be able to recover very quickly without taking medicine. This made them slightly sigh in relief. They stared at them with sparkling eyes. The 10 infant realm experts called the young girl the eldest princess. This young girl's strength was at least at the peak of the infant realm. It was unknown which powerful force she came from. Hehe, we're just sparring. Don't worry, we won't be too harsh. Xiao Yu smiled a little embarrassedly. After all, the other party's parents had come. The corners of Feng Lingtian's mouth couldn't help but twitch as he stared at Xiao Yu innocently. I say, you witch, I didn't provoke you this time. Why did you hit me? Who said you didn't provoke me? Xiao Yu was a little angry when she heard Feng Lingtian's words and glared at him. Feng Lingtian was shocked and quickly took 2 steps back. He stared at him with vigilance. If you have something to say, let's talk it out properly. A gentleman will use his words but not his hand. The thousands of people around saw the cowardly look of their immortal sect's crown prince and the corner of their mouths twitched. Fuck, was this still the fearless crown prince that no one dared to provoke in the Yellow Cauldron world? This is my martial nephew, the disciple of my elder brother. Just now, I heard a group of you surrounding him and asking him to sell the Fengqing pill to you. If he doesn't sell it to you, he will be in trouble in the future. I said, you are still the crown prince of some Yellow Heaven immortal sect. If I don't beat you up, who will? Are you bullying my martial nephew? Xiao Yu glared at Feng Lingtian and pointed at Xiao Ran. Feng Lingtian looked over and looked at Xiao Ran. Everyone's gaze was also on Xiao Ran. They knew this youth. He was the only genius disciple who had joined their Yellow Heaven immortal sect in the real world. He was only 18 years old and already had the strength of the Dan stage. He was extremely terrifying. Your brother's disciple, Fuck. Feng Lingtian almost vomited blood when he heard this. He knew what kind of existence the witch's brother was. That was an immortal level existence. Why do you think your brother's disciple came to his Yellow Heaven immortal sect? I'm Master's in-name disciple. Master said that in the future, he would let me explore on my own. Xiao Ran bowed to Feng Lingtian with a strange expression. This aunt master of his was too powerful. Elder Feng, who was standing in the sky, was also stunned. The disciple of the Dragon King, a trace of seriousness flashed in Feng Jinqing's eyes. The Dragon King of the Dragon Gate. After the 9 cauldrons appeared in different worlds, all the immortal sects had some understanding of the real world. Most of the immortal sects had also heard of the Dragon Gate and the Dragon King, but after understanding their strength, they basically threw it to the back of their minds. That was because they only knew that the Dragon Gate had about 10 infant realm experts, and the Dragon King was very powerful. But in the eyes of the high and mighty immortal sects, it was not worth mentioning, because only immortals and immortal sects could make them take them seriously. Therefore, the news about the Dragon Gate and the Dragon King did not even reach the immortals and many disciples of the immortal sects. Chapter 721, Grand Aunt. In addition, the Dragon Gate and the Dragon King had disappeared from Jianghu for more than a year. Therefore, almost all the immortal sects had forgotten about this once powerful force in Jianghu. It was as if a big figure would not remember a commoner. However, they were different. When the Dragon King made his move, Feng Jinqing could already confirm that the Dragon King was an immortal-level existence. Therefore, he paid close attention to the Dragon King and the Dragon Gate, and checked all the news about the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate. When he saw all the experiences of the rise of the Dragon Gate and the Dragon King, he couldn't help but sigh slightly. A heaven-gifted genius and a monstrous existence, like the reincarnation of an immortal god. He is actually an in-name disciple of an immortal god. No wonder he has such terrifying strength and talent at such a young age in the real world. Elder Feng Jinqing sighed slightly. Stop spewing vulgarities. Let me ask you, why did you bully my martial nephew just now? Xiao Yu saw Feng Lingtian's shocked expression and reached out to grab his long braids. A gentleman speaks but doesn't make a move. Feng Lingtian shouted out in despair. I'm sorry, I'm a woman. Xiao Yu stared at him mockingly. I'm not an elder of the immortal sect, why would I care about so many things? Feng Lingtian looked at his long hair being held tightly and being pulled unconsciously, and helplessly began to shift the blame. This caused the surrounding elders of the immortal sect to twitch their brows violently. Cough cough, this matter is indeed our negligence. Elder Feng Jinqing's figure moved, landing beside Xiao Yu and cupping his hands at her. We will definitely handle this matter well. Miss, since your martial nephew has joined our immortal sect, it is also our honor. I'm not afraid of normal competition. I'm just afraid that you people will gang up on my martial nephew and bully outsiders. Xiao Yu was also very polite to Elder Feng Jinqing's gentleness. Don't worry, don't worry. Since this old man has promised, I will definitely not go back on my words. I also know that this disciple Xiao Ran will definitely be nurtured in the same way as the heaven-chosen disciples of the immortal sect in the future. There won't be any injustice. Elder Feng Jinqing promised. Then I'll have to trouble this old man. Xiao Yu smiled and felt a little embarrassed. It's fine, it's fine. This is the first time this young lady has come to our Yellow Heaven immortal sect, right? Tomorrow, I'll let this disciple bring you around and play here for 2 days, Elder Feng Jinqing said with a smile. Sure. Xiao Yu nodded. She had originally planned to stay here for 2 days. Tomorrow, you'll bring me around here. Xiao Yu tugged at the long hair in her hands and said to Feng Lingtian with a smile. Aye. Feng Lingtian's eyes widened and his face turned red. However, just as he finished speaking, his head tilted and Xiao Yu's arms slowly wrapped around his long hair, forcing him to lower his head. Good, good, good. Great aunt, let go, let go. Feng Lingtian quickly said. That's more like it. In the future, I will tell you that I have some friends in your Yellow Heaven immortal sect. In the future, help me take care of them. Don't worry, don't worry. Leave it to me. Leave everything to me. I will definitely not let them suffer any grievances. Before Xiao Yu could finish, Feng Lingtian immediately squeezed out a smile and promised. That's a good girl. Xiao Yu nodded her head in satisfaction. At this moment, her phone rang. My brother's video. Xiao Yu let go of Feng Lingtian's long hair and took out her phone to answer the call. Although holding the phone was a little out of place in an ancient city, this was the world today. 2 terrifying powerhouses might suddenly ring while they were fighting. You are my little apple's cell phone ringtone. Brother. Xiao Yu looked at the video and said with a smile. Are we there yet? Wang Xian was sitting in the villa and asked with a smile. We are here. We are now in Huangtian City. We have seen sect leader Tang, Xiao Ran, Xiao Clan, and Sui Clan. Xiao Yu nodded and laughed. Oh right, brother, let me show you a person. Haha. As she spoke, she pointed the video at Feng Lingtian. It's him. He's the guy I taught a lesson to a year ago. Today, I beat him up again. When Feng Lingtian saw Wang Xian in the video, he forced a smile on his face and nodded respectfully. Hello, brother. Hello. After all, he knew that Wang Xian was an immortal god and was worthy of respect. All right, all right. When did you have such a hobby? When will you be back? Wang Xian looked at his pathetic state and revealed a meaningful smile on his face. He couldn't help but smile. In 2 days, I will be back after playing with the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect in Yellow Heaven City for 2 days. Alright, take care of your safety. Enjoy yourself. I still have some things to take care of. Alright brother. Xiao Yu hung up the video call and realized that there were people standing on the rooftops in all directions. He felt a little embarrassed. Sorry to disturb everyone. Xiao Yu bowed to the surroundings, causing the people from Yellow Sky City to be slightly stunned. They quickly nodded their heads. Alright, we still have to eat. Tomorrow, bring us around and I'll let you recognize us. Xiao Yu looked at Feng Lingtian and said to him. The corner of Feng Lingtian's mouth twitched and he clenched his fists tightly. He gritted his teeth and said, Alright. If you dare not come, I'll beat you up every time I see you in the future. Xiao Yu raised his fist and waved at Elder Feng Jinqing before walking towards the restaurant. Feng Lingtian took a deep breath and looked up at the sky. He was really afraid that tears would flow out of his eyes. Fuck, how could there be such a witch? He could not beat her in a fight. In the past, he could at least escape, but now, he could not even escape. Everyone, disperse. Feng Jinqing said to the thousands of people surrounding them. Disperse, disperse. Everyone looked at their crown prince with a strange expression and dispersed. Seeing their expressions, Feng Lingtian almost found a hole to hide in. This time, his crown prince had lost all his face. Feng Lingtian, Lingtian. In the surroundings, the proud sons of heaven who were with him earlier rushed over and shouted at him with a strange expression. Don't bother me. Feng Lingtian said impatiently. I will get someone to investigate today's matter. Feng Jinqing looked at the group of young men and women and said with a slightly sullen face. The group of young men were stunned for a moment before a trace of nervousness appeared on their faces. In their hearts, Elder Feng was not as amiable as before. On the contrary, he had always been very strict. Today's matter was caused by them and they were going to be punished. Lingtian, Jinqing, come over. Right at this moment, a voice suddenly rang out beside Feng Lingtian and Feng Jinqing's ears. Their expressions changed slightly. It's father. It's sect leader. The two of them nodded their heads respectfully and flew towards the direction of the immortal sect. When the surrounding people heard Elder Feng and Feng Lingtian, they knew that the sect leader had witnessed what had just happened. They just didn't know why their son didn't make a move after being beaten up. Chapter 722, Dragon Gate Banquet 1. Father. Sect Master. Feng Lingtian and Feng Jinqing quickly flew into the main hall of the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect. When they saw their green figures leaning against each other, they immediately shouted. Feng Lingtian tightened his tattered clothes and felt slightly awkward. Hee. The middle-aged man slowly turned around and looked at his son. There was a teasing look in his eyes as he laughed. Father. Feng Lingtian looked at his father's expression and his face turned red. He walked over and said, Father, lend me your limitless green fan tomorrow. What are you using it for? The middle-aged man continued to laugh as he looked at him. Father, it's not like you haven't seen it. Feng Lingtian was slightly embarrassed and he gritted his teeth. That little witch, she actually embarrassed me in front of everyone. I will teach her a lesson tomorrow and let her know how powerful her little master is. Alright, even if I give it to you, you're not her match. The middle-aged man looked at his son and said in amusement. He had never been willing to hit his son once, but he had been taught a lesson twice by a little girl. However, the middle-aged man did not mind. After all, he had been beaten up by a girl, and it was his own fault for not being good at learning. Moreover, being beaten up by a girl might not be a bad thing for his future, and it could also make this kid lower his profile. How could that be? Father, lend me your limitless green fan. I can teach her a good lesson and let her know how powerful I am. Feng Lingtian clenched his fists tightly. His face was filled with the desire to take revenge. That girl already has the strength of a half-step immortal god. Even with the limitless green fan, you are still not her match. The middle-aged man shook his head. What? How is this possible? A year ago, she was still at the infant stage. Feng Lingtian immediately jumped up. However, when he thought about how easily he was beaten up today, his expression changed drastically. Furthermore, the middle-aged man raised his head slightly and looked ahead. With the energy emitted from her body, even 2 or 3 half-step immortal gods might not be her match. That girl should be stepping into the immortal god realm soon. What the fuck? No way, she's about to step into the immortal realm. She looks even younger than me. Feng Lingtian's scalp tingled and the corner of his mouth trembled. Doesn't that mean that I'll never be her match in the future, and I'll be tortured forever? The middle-aged man's expression gradually turned solemn. This girl is not simple, and the 10 subordinates beside her are not simple either. I also feel that there are a few experts who are good at hiding around her, guarding her. Gulp. Feng Lingtian could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Even Feng Jinqing, who was beside him, had a shocked expression on his face. That Dragon King is not simple. According to his past behavior, do not make an enemy out of him, the middle-aged man said faintly. Feng Jinqing nodded in agreement. Then doesn't that mean that I will really bring her here to play tomorrow? Feng Lingtian's face was full of tears. Whenever he thought of her, he felt as though a whip was whipping him. He could not help but tremble. He. The middle-aged man laughed and his body slowly disappeared. Oh my God! Feng Lingtian cried out in grief and indignation. The next morning, Feng Lingtian could only grit his teeth and head to the restaurant where Xiao Yu was staying like a wronged little wife. He did not dare not to come. After knowing that she had such terrifying strength and was about to enter the immortal god realm, he had already changed from wanting to resist to fawning over the little devil, asking her not to beat him up in the future. In the end, the people of Yellow Sky City saw their crown prince standing next to a young girl with a smile like a little puppy, taking her to eat all kinds of delicacies. This caused everyone in Yellow Sky City to be astonished. However, when they thought of what happened last night, the expressions on everyone's faces were very interesting. Their crown prince had really become a little slave. And when Xiao Yu was touring the Yellow Sky Immortal sect, a major incident happened in Jiang City. This incident caught everyone in Jiang City unprepared. Jiang City was no longer the same Jiang City as before. The aristocratic families in Jiang City had also undergone some changes. After the appearance of the 9 cauldrons, all the martial artists in the Jianghu had basically joined the immortal sects. A large portion of them had joined the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect, but the weaker Yellow Heaven Immortal sect didn't take them in. Most of the families in Jiang City were weaker and didn't have the qualifications to join the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect. Therefore, after the other immortal sects appeared, some joined the Ming King Immortal sect, some joined the Puppet Immortal sect, and some joined other immortal sects. After each cauldron appeared, after 4 to 5 months of conflict, they tacitly agreed that one cauldron occupied a territory. This caused Jiang City to belong to the sphere of influence of the Yellow Cauldron. Those aristocratic families that joined other immortal sects directly moved to other cities. There were also warriors from other aristocratic families who had moved to Jiang City because they had joined the Ming King Immortal sect and the Puppet Immortal sect. In short, the current Jiang City was no longer the former Jiang City. However, there were still many former Jiang City worlds that were still in Jiang City. This morning, an invitation was sent to all the aristocratic families. When they saw the words Dragon Gate Banquet, many warriors were shocked. Dragon Gate Banquet, the Dragon King is back? The Dragon King is back. The former king of Jianghu, the king of Jiangcheng, is back. Everyone was stunned as they looked at the invitation in their hands. They were all former Jianghu warriors. They had witnessed the rise and hegemony of the Dragon Gate and witnessed the domineering and invincible Dragon King. What is the Dragon King doing inviting the aristocratic families and warriors of Jiangcheng? Announcing his return and declaring the sovereignty of Jiangcheng, the Dragon King is back. Get people to prepare immediately. Let's go on time today. The former king is back. This is the world of the Ming King Immortal sect and the Puppet Immortal sect now. What does this Dragon King want to do? Does he want to compete with the Ming King Immortal sect and the Puppet Immortal sect? This is simply wishful thinking. The former king is, after all, the former king. He has become a thing of the past. What more does this Dragon King want to do? I have to admit that the former Dragon King of the Dragon Gate once suppressed the entire Jianghu until they couldn't breathe. But now, it's too far away from the immortal sect. The eyes of the warriors of the aristocratic families who received the invitations were shining. In the world where the immortal sect was now the king, there were probably not many who could recognize the former Dragon King of the Dragon Gate. There were even many warriors who disdained him. At this moment, in the temporary base of the Puppet Immortal sect, Jiang City, about 10 disciples of the Puppet Immortal sect stood in a room with despair on their faces. Around them, several elders sat there with gloomy expressions on their faces. In their territory, someone actually dared to cripple their 10 disciples. They deserved to die. Chapter 723, Dragon Gate Banquet 2, 1/20. Do we know who did it? In the main seat of the room, an old man sat there with a sullen face and said with a sullen face, "Deacon Zhong, we have found out. The one who did it was the doctor from the Divine Dragon Medical Center. He is known as the Red God Doctor. He is at the dance stage. However, according to the information we have, the person behind this red god doctor is someone called Wang Xian. He is the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate, the strongest force in the Jianghu. A middle-aged man sitting next to him said as he took out an invitation card. Coincidentally, I received a piece of news today. The middle-aged man handed the invitation card over. This was given to me by a martial artist who joined the puppet immortal sect. Dragon Gate Banquet. The old man took the invitation card and his eyes flickered. That's right, Dragon Gate Banquet. I have investigated this Dragon Gate today and found out that this force is not simple, the middle-aged man said in a deep voice. Not simple? The old man raised his head and looked at the middle-aged man. Yes, this Dragon Gate used to be the most powerful force in the martial world. At the same time, it was also the king of Jiang City. The Dragon King of Dragon Gate was at least at the infant realm, or even stronger. Moreover, there were at least 10 infant realm experts in Dragon Gate, the middle-aged man said. More than 10 infant realm experts. The old man revealed a surprised expression and automatically ignored the words even stronger, then, his eyes turned cold. No wonder they dared to cripple the disciples of our puppet immortal sect. This Dragon Gate is really audacious. The Dragon Gate Banquet is interesting. The old man's eyes turned cold as he slammed the invitation card heavily on the table. I think this is the farewell banquet. The middle-aged man frowned. Deacon, should we report this matter to the immortal sect? After all, the strength of this dragon sect is not to be underestimated. There's no need for that for now. Today, we'll go over and ask them to give us an explanation. If this dragon sect doesn't know what's good for them, we'll report it to the immortal sect and destroy it. This is a deacon. The middle-aged man still wanted to ask if there was any danger. After all, they were a faction in Jianghu in the past and couldn't be compared to the immortal sect at all. As long as this Dragon Gate didn't seek death, they definitely wouldn't dare to attack them. A faction without immortals and gods would be destroyed in the end. At this moment, on the Jianghu network, within the Shunding region's page, a few posts were trending in the forum. One was about Mu Zidao and Ming Feng. Jianghu website was the largest website in China, and ordinary people knew about this forum. What happened at the school gate yesterday was known by all the students of Jiangcheng University. Someone had brought this matter to Jianghu website. There weren't many words, only photos. Mu Zidao and Ming Feng were wearing torn clothes as they stood in front of an RV. A dog was squatting there staring at them. The two of them were in an exceptionally sorry state. The clothes on their bodies couldn't cover their bodies at all. What shocked everyone even more was that the two of them were repairing cars. That's right, they were repairing cars. Mu Zidao and Ming Feng were both elite disciples of the Ming Wang immortal sect. They could definitely be ranked in the top 10 among the younger generation in the immortal sect. However, the two dazzling disciples of the immortal sect were actually repairing the car in such a sorry state. This was obviously abnormal. At the same time, it also caused all the martial artists in the Shunding region to be dumbstruck. What's going on? Mu Zidao and Ming Feng are both very powerful. How did they end up in such a state? Oh my god! What's going on? Everyone was shocked as they replied below. In just a few short hours, it had become the hottest topic in the Shunding region. However, someone who knew about it quickly revealed the cause and effect. This immediately caused an uproar in everyone in the Shunding region. An infant stage dog. Jiang City University's famous figure, Wang Xian, Dragon King of the Dragon Gate. Following that, there was a post that attracted everyone's attention this morning. Dragon Gate Banquet. The Jianghu faction, Dragon King of Dragon Gate, would hold a Dragon Gate banquet at Xianyang Hotel and invite all the martial artists from the aristocratic families in Jiang City. This post was related to Mu Zidao's and Ming Feng's posts. The originator was the same person, Dragon King of Dragon Gate. I didn't expect there to be such a faction in Jianghu, and it's even within the territory of our Shunding. In the Ming Wang immortal sect, a dozen or so young men and women were sitting on a mountain platform that was emitting a faint light. A thin and weak young man holding a white scepter raised his head indifferently and glanced at the two gloomy-looking young men sitting beside him. Does our immortal sect elder have any orders? A girl was holding a cell phone and taking beautiful pictures as she asked with a smile on her face. Do you think the immortal sect will do anything about this? The disciples of the immortal sect are humiliated after provoking others, and the immortal sect will avenge them. Hee hee. The thin and weak young man said mockingly. After all, there are about 10 infant realm cultivators. Maybe the Dragon King is a half-step immortal god powerhouse. This force is not weak. The girl continued. Tonight, my father is attending a banquet. That guy dares to humiliate us because he has an idea. He wants to join our Ming Wang immortal sect. In this way, he will attract our immortal sect's attention, investigate his background, and then invite them to join the immortal sect. This way, he can get better benefits. Obviously, Feng's face was gloomy, and his eyes flickered. However, he picked the wrong person. He can join, but he has to pay a price. They are a very powerful force and are very useful to our immortal sect. Hehe, but you guys are really unlucky. At most, you can only disgust the other party. In the future, your status might not be lower than ours. The thin and weak young man laughed. The Dragon King of the Dragon Gate dared to humiliate Mu Zidao and Xian Feng. Clearly, in their eyes, he had only one goal, which was to attract the attention of the immortal sect and invite them into the immortal sect. That was because if the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate deliberately wanted to humiliate Mu Zidao and Xian Feng, he was obviously courting death. A powerful force that once belonged to the Jianghu was obviously not so stupid. I'll go and see the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate tonight. Which one of you is interested in going? The thin and weak young man stood up with a smile on his face and said casually, I'll go. I'll go and take a look too. The young men stood up with smiles on their faces. If Wang Xian knew about the thoughts of the Ming Wang immortal sect and thought that he wanted to attract the attention of the immortal sect, he didn't know if he would think that they were too narcissistic. However, from the perspective of the immortal sect, this was the only plausible explanation. An ant ran onto the body of an elephant. The elephant wouldn't think that the ant was here to provoke it. It just thinks the ant is lost. Because ants don't deliberately seek death. In their opinion, that's what Dragon King means. Chapter 724, Dragon King Banquet 3, 2/20. Dragon King, we have received news that the floating island was taken away by the celestial sect of Puppet. In Jiang City University, Wang Xian walked towards the first-grade pavilion after school at noon. Beside him, Mo Qinglong reported to him. Okay, I'll go and get it back tomorrow. Wang Xian nodded. He went to the shop and looked around. The first-grade pavilion was no longer open for business today. As for manager Huang, he had handed him over to Elder Qin to handle. As for ordinary people, he had to go through legal means. With the conclusive evidence, one could imagine the consequences. In addition, the employees of the first-grade pavilion were all sent back after giving them a sum of money. Wang Xian got Devil Azure Dragon to start modifying the first-grade pavilion and turning it into the Divine Dragon Smelting Workshop. Dragon King, this is the information of all the martial artists from the aristocratic families in the martial arts world. In the afternoon, Mo Qinglong handed over another set of information. Wang Xian sized it up. Okay, call all the dragon men. Ao Jian, Ao Yarrow, and the rest of them will come as well. Wang Xian looked at the time and headed towards the Xianyang Hotel in advance. The entire hotel had been cleared out today. When he arrived, Elder Qin and Elder Shui were waiting at the door. Little brother Wang Xian, please come in. The two of them welcomed Wang Xian in with smiles on their faces. The three of them headed upstairs. Things have changed, but people have changed. The three of them sat in front of a table and sighed slightly. Back then, Wang Xian and Elder Qin and Elder Shui had formed an alliance. Now, nearly 2 years had passed, and everything had undergone a huge change. Little brother Wang Xian, your return will definitely stir up a storm, Old Shui said to Wang Xian with a smile on his face. The Sea of Jianghu is much bigger and much deeper. Old Shui and Old Qin, are you sure that I can stir it up? Wang Xian was full of smiles as he spoke to them with a deeper meaning in his words. In our opinion, there is no sea that the Dragon King cannot stir up. Come, come, welcome the Dragon King back to the sea. Old Qin and Old Shui laughed out loud as they raised the wine glasses in their hands. Hee hee. Wang Xian understood what they meant and felt a little relieved. It seemed that there were still people who believed in him in Jiang City. It has been more than a year and many things have changed. Little brother Wang Xian, you must be mentally prepared for today's banquet. Elder Qin said to Wang Xian slowly. Don't worry. I want to see how much Jiang City has changed. Wang Xian smiled nonchalantly. Time passed slowly. Now that Elder Shui and his son and grandson had joined the Ming Wang immortal sect, Elder Shui came over to express his stance. Wang Xian also knew that the world had changed. The martial artists of the aristocratic families in Jiang City belonged to the Ming Wang immortal sect and the puppet immortal sect. It was obviously impossible for them to betray the immortal sect and submit to him with a wave of his hand. The reason why Wang Xian set up the Dragon Gate banquet today was not because he wanted everyone in Jiang City to regard him as their king. Instead, he wanted to announce that he was back. No matter whose territory Jiang City was in the future, do not provoke me. Wang Xian did not have any intention of contending for hegemony in the martial arts world. His territory was the sea. As long as he developed the sea well, he did not place much importance on a piece of land. He was a little annoyed to see people from the Ming Wang immortal sect and the puppet immortal sect jumping around in front of him one after another. Although they were just ants, it was annoying to have too many ants. Today was a rather lively day for the entire Jiang City. The Dragon King banquet. The Dragon King was back. At the Xianyang Hotel, luxurious cars were parked at the entrance at about 7 o'clock in the evening. A warrior with a high status in Jiang City walked into the Xianyang Hotel. He walked into the hall, looked around at some familiar people, greeted each other, and then surrounded them. I didn't expect the Dragon King to come back after more than a year. Dragon Gate banquet. I don't know what this Dragon King is going to do. Now we have all joined the immortal sect. Who knows? He is hosting a banquet for all the martial artists in Jiang City. I wonder what kind of lawsuit the Dragon King is trying to sell. I heard yesterday that the Dragon King humiliated Mu Zidao and Ming Feng of our immortal sect. They are core disciples of the immortal sect. This Dragon King is as fearless as ever. The Dragon sect is also a powerful force. Although it is not an immortal sect, it is not something we can provoke. Let's just watch today. I say that the Dragon King provoked the core disciples of the Ming Wang Immortal Gate as soon as he returned to Jiang City. He's obviously looking for trouble. Things are different now. This Dragon King is too arrogant. Some warriors whispered to each other as they rode the stairs and headed upstairs. The world had changed. The Dragon King, who had once made everyone in the Jianghu submit to him, had completely lost his reverence with the appearance of the Immortal Gate. Some people even mocked the Dragon King, while some people's eyes sparkled and were filled with coldness. In the Jianghu, there had been many warriors who hated the Dragon King for chasing them out of the spiritual waterfall. A group of people walked inside. The warriors from the aristocratic families who were familiar with each other gathered together with the warriors from the Gate of Immortality and came to the banquet hall. Tables and chairs were placed in the hall. The warriors from the aristocratic families of Jiang City looked around and found that the members of the Dragon Gate and the Dragon King had not arrived. They found a seat and sat down. At 7:30, all the warriors of Jiang City had arrived, and the hall was almost full. At first, they sat there in silence and waited, but as time passed, some people began to talk in low voices. At 8 o'clock, the members of the Dragon Gate and the Dragon King still had not appeared. This made some people look impatient. "Where's the Dragon King? He asked us to come at 7:30. It's already 8 o'clock. Why isn't he here yet?" "Yeah, we've been waiting here for half an hour. Why isn't he here yet?" The two middle-aged men frowned and said in a deep voice. His voice was not soft, so everyone could hear him clearly. "Are you deliberately ignoring us? It's been half an hour, and you still haven't come over. We are not the subordinates of the Dragon Gate, and we are not the Dragon King's world now. A middle-aged man suddenly stood up and said loudly, "If you still don't come out, we will leave. Do you want to put on airs or show us your might? The Dragon King and the Dragon Gate are quite powerful, but no matter how powerful they can't control us. We came here today to give him face and really take ourselves seriously." An old man gently patted the table. "That's right. If he doesn't come soon, we'll leave. The Immortal Sect still has a mission to deal with," a fat middle-aged man said with a smile. Although their strength was only at the Xiantian realm, they were really not afraid of the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate now. With the Immortal Sect behind them, what could the Dragon King do to them? Some of the other martial artists also showed a hint of impatience in their eyes. "Sorry, I'm late." At this moment, Wang Xian, who had been in another room, came to the entrance of the banquet hall. Behind him were a group of Dragon Gate disciples. Chapter 725, Dragon King Banquet 4, 3/20. "Sorry, I'm late." As the voice rang out, Wang Xian walked towards the banquet hall with a smile on his face. At this moment, Wang Xian had a warm smile on his face. After advancing to celestial being, his aura was completely restrained. In the past, there was a domineering and majestic aura coming from him. There was even a hint of murderous aura coming from him. Now, he looked like an ordinary person. Upon hearing Wang Xian's voice, everyone was slightly stunned. They looked towards the entrance in astonishment. When they saw Wang Xian walking in wearing casual clothes with a smile on his face, a hint of astonishment appeared in the eyes of the martial artists of River City. The Dragon King's aura has changed. He is no longer as lofty and domineering as before. He doesn't put the world in his eyes anymore. That's because the Dragon King in the past was unrivaled in Jianghu. But now, he is not stupid. He knows how to control himself. If the Dragon King still dares to be as arrogant as before, he will probably be killed by the Immortal Sect. Some of the martial artists saw Wang Xian's genial expression and relaxed the tension in their eyes. A faint smile appeared on their faces. It's fine. We're just nagging. The Celestial Sect still has some matters to settle, so. The fat middle-aged man was still standing there with a smile on his face as he spoke to Wang Xian cheerfully. "Congratulations on the Dragon King's return. May I know why the Dragon King invited us to a banquet?" The old man who was slapping the table took a sip of his wine and asked Wang Xian. The other 400 to 500 martial artists looked at Wang Xian with a hint of curiosity in their eyes. "It's nothing. I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm back." Wang Xian walked to the front of the banquet and turned his head slowly. As soon as he finished his sentence, the fat middle-aged man and a few middle-aged men smirked. The rest of the martial artists from Jiang City looked at Wang Xian indifferently and didn't say a word. Wang Xian wasn't too surprised when he saw this scene. "I'm inviting everyone to a banquet today. The main point is to let everyone know that in Jiang City, it's fine as long as you don't disturb me. I don't want to be troubled by some trivial matters." As he spoke, he raised a glass of red wine in front of the table lightly and gestured to everyone. All the warriors realized that the Dragon King of Dragon Gate, who was standing in front of them, had become much weaker. He was no longer as domineering as before. This made everyone guess that the Dragon King of Dragon Gate was afraid of the Immortal Sect. Some warriors immediately raised their wine glasses, while others did not move. With their backs against the Immortal Sect, they could ignore the Dragon King. "Dragon King, we will naturally not trouble you. However, this is the territory of the Mingwang Immortal Sect and the Puppet Immortal Sect. We are disciples of the Immortal Sect. We will listen to the orders of the Immortal Sect." A middle-aged man raised his wine cup and said to Wang Xian with a smile. "Oh." Wang Xian nodded his head. A draconid behind him moved. Bang, 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 bang. In an instant, violent sounds were heard. Among the people present, the strongest one was only at the dance stage. No one could see the figure of the draconid clearly. Crash. Under everyone's stunned gaze, the middle-aged man who raised his wine cup flew out. He smashed through the glass of the hotel and spat out a mouthful of blood. His dantian was crippled and he flew down from the 15th floor. Everyone in the banquet hall was stunned. Following that, A look of horror appeared on their faces. Impudent! How dare you attack a disciple of the Ming Wang immortal sect? Dragon King, you! The fat middle-aged man's expression changed drastically. He pointed at Wang Xian and looked embarrassed. Crack, crack. Ah, you guys actually crippled my Dantian. My daughter married an elite disciple of the immortal sect. You guys. Before the fat middle-aged man could finish his words, he felt his body suffer a terrifying attack. His Dantian was directly shattered, and large mouthfuls of blood sprayed out. His body also broke through the glass and fell down. With their physiques, they would not die, but in the future, their path of martial arts would also be cut off. Another person flew out. Everyone's faces changed greatly, and they looked at the young man standing in front with a smile on his face. He hasn't changed. He still hasn't changed. Everyone in the banquet hall trembled slightly and their foreheads were covered in cold sweat. The Dragon King was not afraid of their identity as disciples of the immortal sect. Those warriors who did not pick up their wine glasses shook their arms and quickly picked up the red wine in front of them. They looked at Wang Xian in shock. The entire banquet hall fell silent in an instant. Only the sound of heavy breathing could be heard. They were shocked. The Dragon King actually disregarded their status as disciples of the immortal sect and directly crippled the two of them. Wang Xian raised his wine cup and gestured, "You don't have any objections, right?" This time, all the martial artists in Jiang City hurriedly drank all the wine in their wine cups. "No, no. How would we dare to provoke you, Dragon King?" An old man said hurriedly. That's right, that's right. In the future in Jiang City, Dragon King, if you have any instructions, just tell us directly." Another middle-aged man followed suit. The current Dragon King with a smile was exactly the same as before. He was still so unbridled. Interesting. He came uninvited. At this moment, Wang Xian turned his head and looked outside. Warriors wearing thick metal clothes flew over directly. Apart from a metal object, there was also something that was flying in the sky like a sailboat. There were 10 young men sitting on the sailboat. Boom! The group broke through the glass and entered the banquet hall. At the same time, figures emitting pure white light flew towards them in the dark night. There were a total of 7 figures flying towards them at a terrifying speed. A middle-aged man with white hair. His white hair was not white. It was emitting a faint light. Other than the middle-aged man, the rest of them were all young men. One of them was a girl. The old man who was wearing the dark golden puppet armor bowed to the middle-aged man with white hair. Then, he turned around and looked around. "Why? Do you guys still have to follow his orders in the future?" The old man in the dark golden puppet armor clearly heard the voices here. His gaze swept across the warriors from the aristocratic families in Jiang City. Beside him, the 7 people who were emitting a faint light energy swept their gaze across the surroundings. Finally, their gaze landed on Wang Xian. 2 of the young men's eyes were filled with killing intent. "Deacon Zhong, it can't be, it can't be. We were forced by him too." The expressions of the warriors from the immortal puppet sect changed slightly as they hurriedly spoke to the old man. They heaved a sigh of relief when the deacon from the immortal sect arrived. Elder Ming. When the other group of martial artists from the Ming Wang immortal sect saw the white-haired middle-aged man, a hint of shock flashed across their eyes as they hurriedly spoke respectfully. "Yes." The middle-aged man nodded his head coldly as he stared at Wang Xian. "Dragon King of the Dragon Gate? Do you know what this place is? You called us disciples of the immortal sect over and even dared to cripple us disciples of the puppet immortal sect. Now, give us an explanation." Deacon Zhong stared at Wang Xian and said slowly. Chapter 726, Dragon King Banquet 5, 4/20. After Deacon Zhong finished his words, the 10 young men standing beside him stared at Wang Xian with hatred in their eyes. Their eyes were filled with killing intent. These 10 young men made the 7 white-haired middle-aged men beside them slightly curious. They turned their heads and looked over. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. Crippled. Those 10 disciples of the puppet immortal sect were actually crippled. He. These 10 disciples of your puppet immortal sect are causing trouble in my restaurant. If I don't cripple him, who else would I cripple? Wang Xian swept his gaze across the group and said faintly, "He." When Deacon Zhong heard Wang Xian's words, a hint of coldness flashed across his eyes. He said coldly, "Then do you know that they are disciples of our puppet immortal sect? How dare they cripple our disciples in our territory? I think you are courting death. So what if they are crippled? So what?" A hint of disdain flashed across Wang Xian's eyes as he looked at the old man calmly. "Deacon Zhong, just now, one of our disciples was crippled by him and thrown out of the window. There was also another disciple from the Ming Wang immortal sect." A middle-aged man walked to the side of the old man. He swept his gaze across Wang Xian and a hint of hatred flashed across his eyes. "That's right, Elder Ming. One of our disciples was thrown out. We have no other choice. Please stand up for us." An old man who had joined the Mingwang immortal sect immediately came to the front of the white-haired middle-aged man and spoke with a face full of anger. That's right. Before the emergence of the immortal sect, he had already suppressed the entire Jianghu. We dare not speak out in anger. Now, he wants us to submit to him. Please, Elder Ming, stand up for us. Please help us make a decision, Deacon Zhong. Instantly, dozens of martial artists from Jiang City rushed to Deacon Zhong and Elder Ming's side and shouted loudly, "Damn this fellow! He dares to act arrogantly in our territory. Father, we should destroy them." When Ming Feng heard the words of the martial artists, his eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Wang Xian. "In my opinion, there's no need for them to exist anymore." When Executive Zhong saw the contemptuous look on Wang Xian's face, his eyes were filled with killing intent as well. "Kid, don't be too arrogant." The white-haired middle-aged man took 2 steps forward and said, "Let's not talk about other things for now." He pointed at Ming Feng and said, "He is my son. The matter of you insulting my son is a little too much." Ming Feng raised his head slightly and walked towards Wang Xian slowly. He stared at him angrily. Mu Zidao and a few other young men and women also walked towards Wang Xian slowly. "It is a little too much. You can teach an ordinary disciple of our immortal sect a lesson. However, a core disciple has crossed the line." The skinny young man crossed his arms and sized up Wang Xian and the group of Draconids behind him. He looked down on them. "So this is the Dragon King. He's quite handsome, hey?" The girl beside the skinny young man was holding a cell phone in her hand. She looked at him with a smile and said, "It wouldn't be bad if you join our Mingwang immortal sect. Kneel down and apologize immediately until we accept it. Otherwise, this matter won't end so easily." Mu Zidao and the rest walked 2 meters in front of Wang Xian. They pointed at him and said coldly. Wang Xian was slightly speechless when he heard their words. He sneered and said, "Join your immortal sect." The surrounding warriors of Jiang City were slightly stunned when they heard Mu Zidao and the rest's words. Following that, they exchanged glances with each other. The Dragon King of the Dragon Gate provoked the disciples of the Ming Wang immortal sect in order to attract the attention of the immortal sect. The Dragon King held this Dragon Gate banquet in order to attract the attention of the immortal sect. He wants to join the immortal sect. The warriors of Jiang City looked at each other and were basically certain in their hearts. By attracting the attention of the 2 immortal sects, the Mingwang immortal sect and the puppet immortal sect would discover the strength of the Dragon Gate and then invite the Dragon Gate to join them. There was a difference between actively applying to join and being invited to join. The latter could obtain greater benefit. I didn't expect the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate to actually want to join the immortal sect through this method. No wonder he dared to cripple the disciples of the immortal sect. This is because the value of the Dragon Gate far exceeds them. The immortal sect wouldn't blame the Dragon King for this. Some of the martial artists from Jiang City looked a little embarrassed. They didn't expect the Dragon Gate banquet to have such a meaning. "Now, immediately kneel down and apologize to me. Everything can be settled after the apology. Otherwise." Obviously, Feng also pointed at Wang Xian and said coldly. A few young men at the side looked at him with smiles on their faces. The corners of their lips curled up slightly. "Kneel down and apologize. How interesting. How narcissistic." Wang Xian glanced at the white-haired young men who were standing at the side with their hands behind their backs with a smile on his face. There were 6 young men surrounding him. The reason why I'm holding this banquet today is to tell all of you that the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate is back. The smile on Wang Xian's face slowly disappeared. He said in a calm tone, also, in Jiang City, no one is allowed to provoke me, and no one is allowed to disturb me. Violators, die. When Wang Xian finished his words, the atmosphere in the banquet hall changed instantly. The air was filled with murderous intent instantly. The members of the Dragon Gate behind Wang Xian instantly attacked the 6 young men of the Mingwang immortal sect. The sudden explosion caught the 6 of them off guard. PFFF. 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 Bang. Bang. The sound of 4 daggers piercing and 2 terrifying sounds of collision could be heard. Everyone was completely stunned as they watched this scene in horror. The 4 core disciples of the Mingwang immortal sect were directly pierced through by the daggers. The other 2 skinny young men and girls, whose strength had reached the infant stage, managed to avoid the disaster. However, both of them were severely injured. Ming Feng, who was pointing at Wang Xian, froze. His arrogant face was filled with fear. He lowered his head and looked at his chest. He was in disbelief and despair. You! How dare you! Ming Feng's face was distorted. The 3 young men beside him were filled with despair and disbelief. They actually dared to kill him. I want you to die. On the side, the white-haired middle-aged man, who had been watching coldly from above, saw his son and the core disciples of the immortal sect being stabbed directly through their bodies, and his face changed dramatically. He roared loudly, and his hair stood on end, and a dazzling white light filled the entire banquet hall. All the warriors of the Jiang City world in the surroundings were horrified and their bodies trembled. What the hell was going on? The Dragon King was not going to join the immortal sect, but he was going to warn everyone today, including the members of the immortal sect. What would happen if you provoked me, Poochie? At this moment, a piercing sound was heard. Everyone quickly turned their heads and looked over with widened eyes in shock. A white shadow appeared behind Elder Ming, and the shadow's arm directly pierced through Elder Ming's chest. Around him, the dazzling white light quickly dimmed, and the white shadow behind him disappeared. Elder Ming widened his eyes and looked down at his chest. Chapter 727, Dragon King Banquet 6, 5/20. It was unbelievable. No one could believe what was happening before their eyes. Elder Ming's body was actually penetrated by a white figure. It was very difficult for him to survive this attack. Elder Ming was not an ordinary elder of the Mingwang immortal sect. He was at the half-step immortal god realm and was ranked in the top 3 below the immortal god realm. Such a terrifying powerhouse was actually killed right away. Most importantly, he actually dared to kill him. Dragon King of the Dragon Gate. Cough cough, cough cough, you. The white-haired middle-aged man was no longer as cold and calm as before. He stared at Wang Xian with his eyes wide open. His body bent down slowly and hugged the spot where his wound was. Father. No. Obviously, Feng, who was still alive, saw that his father was being attacked as well. His eyes were filled with regret. What kind of people did they offend? They didn't care about their background at all. Moreover, the strength that he displayed also made them feel terrified. An expert who was half a step away from the immortal god was instantly killed. Gulp. Beside him, Deacon Zhong gulped, his eyes filled with fear. He killed 4 core disciples of the Mingwang immortal sect and killed Elder Ming. Obviously, he completely disregarded their background. Looking at the indifferent youth, Deacon Zhong's scalp went numb and his body trembled. The thin and weak youth and the girl half knelt on the ground and clutched their chest, their faces filled with cold sweat. When they saw this scene, they looked a little dazed. They didn't expect this at all. They didn't expect this kind of result at all. Join our immortal sect. Deliberately attract attention. No wonder the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate said that they were narcissistic and arrogant. He didn't want to attract the attention of the immortal sect at all, but he didn't take it seriously from the beginning to the end. Coming uninvited, one of your sins. Trespassing is the second offense. A disciple of the immortal sects is causing trouble, yet he still came to question us. The third offense. Therefore, all of you should stay here. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the people from the Puppet Immortal Sect and the Ming Wang Immortal Sect as he spoke slowly. After he finished speaking, the group of draconids behind him walked towards them. The immortal masters from our immortal sects will not let you off. We will not let you off. Deacon Zhong could not help but take 2 steps back as he spoke with a face full of fear. There were a total of 30 members of the dragon sect behind Wang Xian. The aura that they emitted was at least at the infant stage. Looking at so many infant stage powerhouses, Deacon Zhong's face was filled with despair. He did not expect that the former faction of the Jianghu would have so many powerhouses. They weren't afraid of the celestial sect. Leave that girl behind to collect their corpses. Wang Xian pointed at the severely injured girl and said to the draconid. It wasn't that he was soft on the fairer sex, but this girl was the only one among the 6 young men who walked over with curiosity. The other 5 people were all mocking and looking down on him. Wang Xian admitted that he wasn't a good person. Too many martial artists had died because of him. However, all of them were provoked by others. This was especially so during the massacre of the martial arts world. They wanted to besiege the Dragon Gate and kill his sister, Lan Qingyu, and the rest. They even implicated the Shui family. Naturally, he would not hesitate at all. If you want to slaughter my entire family, I will exterminate your entire family. He would not show any mercy. The moment Wang Xian finished speaking, all the draconids moved. At the scene, only Deacon Zhong, an infant stage powerhouse, was standing. They had no ability to resist at all. When the surrounding River City martial artists saw their own immortal sex powerhouse being killed, they were stunned. Mo Qinglong looked at the River City martial artists who were approaching the immortal sect earlier and shouted for them to make the decision. No, no, spare us. We are forced to do so. Spare us. Everyone broke down when they saw Mo Qinglong's gaze. They knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. All of them are crippled. Let's be ordinary people from now on, Mo Qinglong said coldly. His body moved and destroyed the dantian of dozens of people. Everyone's faces were filled with despair. It was not easy for them to join the celestial sect. Now, they had become ordinary people. That feeling filled their hearts with despair. Wang Xian walked to the side of the only girl. The girl was panting heavily. Her eyes were filled with fear. The innocent curiosity and liveliness from before had disappeared completely. Tell your celestial gods not to provoke me. Otherwise, they will bear the consequences themselves. Yes, yes. The girl frowned and nodded her head with some fear in her eyes. Also, remember not to target any of my friend. Wang Xian nodded his head and swept his gaze across the martial artists around him. All the martial artists in Jiang City could not help but take a step back. Their eyes were filled with fear. Wang Xian ignored them and left directly from the spot where he had broken through. The group of draconids followed closely behind him and soon disappeared from everyone's sight. Huff, huff, huff. Wang Xian left. The rapid breathing sounds in the banquet hall could be heard. The real Dragon King is back. The entire banquet hall was silent for a long time. Finally, an old man slowly uttered a few words. His gaze swept across the surroundings as he staggered out of the hall. Miss Fei Yuan, are you all right? Let's send their corpses back to the immortal sect. Some of the martial artists who had joined the Puppet Immortal Sect and the Ming Wang Immortal Sect looked at the girl who was slowly standing up and said hesitantly, I'll inform the Immortal Sect. Looking at the corpses of the disciples and elders around her, Fei Yuan was silent. She took out a signal flare from her interspatial ring. The white signal flare flicked gently toward the outside. All of you, leave, Fei Yuan said to the surrounding warriors of River City. Miss Fei Yuan, then, we'll leave first. The group of people felt a little heavy-hearted and slowly walked out. They had joined an immortal sect and had an immortal sect as their backer. They thought that the Dragon King would be afraid of them, but in the end, this result was hard for them to accept. Dragon King, A young man clenched his fist tightly and looked at the corpses of the experts of the immortal sect around him. His eyes flickered. He took out his cell phone and secretly took pictures one by one. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, an extreme white light lit up in the sky. At the same time, loud sounds spread far and wide. The white light stopped in the sky, like white stars that flickered gently. A total of 5 white dots appeared in the surroundings and stopped in the sky. At this moment, in the Ming King city next to the Ming King immortal sect. The ancient city was bustling with activity. Emergency signal from the north. 5-star emergency signal, not good, a half-step immortal god is in trouble. What happened? Why is there a 5-star emergency signal? Suddenly, a disciple of Mingwang immortal sect looked toward the northern sky in shock. 5 light dots stood in the sky. This was a kind of emergency signal from Mingwang immortal sect. 5 stars, which meant that a half-step immortal god had met with misfortune. This level of signal flares, the first time. Chapter 728, Shunding Area Shook, 6/20. Oh no, something big has happened. Go to the location of the accident immediately. The appearance of the 5-star distress signal bullet caused the entire Mingwang immortal sect to shake. 5-star, this was an accident that happened to a half-step immortal god-level powerhouse. There were less than 4 half-step immortal god-level powerhouses in their immortal sect. The expressions of some elders of the immortal sect changed drastically. In less than a minute, a group of Bright King immortal sect flew toward Jiang City. There were a total of 25 people, all of whom were infant realm experts. Almost half of Bright King immortal sect's infant realm experts were mobilized. The leader was a bald old man. His head was emitting a faint light in the dark night. He wore a robe and held a magic staff in his hand. The group of people flew toward the direction of the distress signal at a terrifying speed. When the group of Mingwang immortal sect powerhouses rushed over, a post that made all the disciples of the 2 great immortal sects furious exploded on the Jianghu website in the Shunding area. Dragon King of the Dragon Gate killed the core disciples, deacons, and elders of the puppet immortal sect of the Mingwang immortal sect. We want to avenge them. There were pictures attached to a post. The pictures were the corpses of the disciples of the immortal sect, close to 20 corpses. There were also some introductions about the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate at the bottom of the pictures. There were many words in the introductions, about 200 or 300 words, mainly describing the Dragon King's brutality, arrogance, and contempt for the immortal sect. He even said that he would destroy the Mingwang immortal sect and the puppet immortal sect. Nowadays, everyone in the immortal sect had a mobile phone, especially when they had just come into contact with the internet. Many people in the immortal sect were paying attention to the things on the internet. When they saw this post, everyone was furious. Especially when they saw the top 10 disciples of the immortal sect, including the second-ranked Heaven's Pride disciple, Ming Quan's corpse, and the corpse of Elder Ming. Everyone was furious. That was the most elite disciple of their immortal sect, an elder of their immortal sect, and now he was killed. This was simply an insult and provocation to their immortal sect. The disciples of the puppet immortal sect were the same. The deacons were killed, and the disciples were killed. The entire post instantly ignited the anger of the 2 immortal sects. In just half an hour, the number of replies reached hundreds of thousands. Countless disciples expressed that they would definitely kill the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate. The 2 immortal sect disciples were in an uproar. Many even wanted to kill the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate tonight. The crowd was furious. Flying kite. In the Xianyang Hotel, the experts of the Mingwang immortal sect sensed the aura of the girl and immediately flew over. When they saw the corpse in the banquet hall, their expressions changed drastically. Old bye. When the bald old man saw the white-haired middle-aged man's corpse, his expression changed drastically, and he immediately walked over. Who did it? The bald old man's gaze swept over the surrounding corpses, and his expression was extremely gloomy. Dragon Gate Dragon King. Fei Yuan's eyes were slightly red. It was the youth who humiliated Mu Zidao and Ming Feng yesterday. We thought that the other party wanted to attract the attention of our immortal sect and wanted to join us. We came over with Uncle Ming. In the end, there was a conflict. The other party had around 30 infant realm experts and a terrifying assassin hidden in the void. Uncle Ming was killed in an instant by a sneak attack. What? The surrounding Ming Wang immortal sect experts revealed shocked expressions when they heard the girl's words. 30 infant realm experts? Assassins hidden in the void? The bald old man's eyes revealed a grave expression. Soon after, his expression became slightly malevolent. Not to mention 30 infant realm experts, even if there were 40 of them, they dared to kill so many of us. We must take revenge. First Elder, that Dragon King told me to tell our immortal god not to provoke him, or else we will bear the consequences. Fei Yuan continued to say with a serious expression. Bear the consequences? The bald old man's face instantly darkened, and all the surrounding experts of the Ming King immortal sect also realized the seriousness of the problem. Since the other party dared to directly ask them to tell them about the immortal god, then it was inevitable that the other party also had terrifying experts at the immortal god level. Report to the immortal god immediately. The bald old man took a deep breath and said with a solemn face. The group of Ming Wang immortal sect powerhouses carried the corpses around them and flew toward the immortal sect with extremely ugly expressions. 5 core disciples ranked in the top 15 were killed, and an elder who was half a step away from the immortal god level was killed. This was the most serious loss Ming Wang immortal sect had suffered since its appearance. The main peak of Ming Wang immortal sect was a mountain that was emitting white light. The entire mountain peak was like a holy mountain. Dong dong dong. At 9 o'clock in the evening, the bell on the main peak rang and spread throughout the entire immortal sect. All the elders and deacons of the immortal sect had gathered. A figure slowly appeared in front of a chair in the middle of the front. There were only 4 chairs in front. At this moment, all the experts of the immortal sect were gathered in the hall. On the ground in front of them, there were many corpses. Sect leader, the entire immortal sect is filled with righteous indignation. We must avenge Elder Ming and the others. An old man looked at the corpses on the ground with a face full of grief and indignation and shouted angrily. Sect leader, Elder Ming and 5 elite disciples were killed. We must avenge them. Another old man said. You don't need to care about this matter. We will handle it. The figure covered by the white light said to the group of immortal sect powerhouses below. Sect leader, all the disciples of the immortal sect hope that we can take revenge for them. There are more than 10,000 disciples waiting outside the immortal sect. The bald old man sighed and said to the white figure. We will handle this matter. The other party has an immortal level powerhouse. Let all the disciples wait for the result. The white figure said in a deep voice. Yes, sect leader. The powerhouses of the Ming Wang immortal sect nodded slightly and didn't say anything. The battle involving the immortal level powerhouses wasn't something they could participate in. Bury them properly and leave, the figure said directly, and the group of immortal level powerhouses immediately walked out. At this time, tens of thousands of immortal level disciples had gathered outside the main peak. Elder, how should we deal with this matter? Should the disciples go and kill the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate? The disciples of the Ming Wang immortal sect were completely incited by the posts on the Jianghu internet. Their fellow disciples had been killed, and the posts were full of sensational exaggerations, which made them want to kill the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate immediately. The sect master will handle this matter personally. Everyone, don't worry. The disciples of the Ming King immortal sect can't die in vain, the bald old man said to the disciples in front of him with a gloomy face. It's good that the sect master will handle it personally. Destroy them. Destroy their entire sect. Leave no one alive. They dare to kill the people of our Ming King immortal sect. They dare to provoke our immortal sect. Make them pay a heavy price. Hang the Dragon King's corpse in our immortal sect and use his corpse to repent. When the disciples of the Ming Wang immortal sect heard that the sect master was going to deal with this matter, they were all excited. If the immortal god made a move, the guy who dared to kill their disciples would be dead for sure. Chapter 729, We'd Better Retreat, 7/20. The sect leader will personally handle the matter of Elder Ming and the others. All the disciples of the immortal sect will wait for the news. The murderer will be beheaded by the sect leader. Anyone who dares to provoke us, the disciples of the Ming King immortal sect, will be punished. If the sect leader makes a move, no matter who the other party is, they will have to pay the price of blood. Lord Sect Leader, please hang the Dragon King's corpse in our Mingwang city and let everyone know the fate of those who dare to kill our disciples. The elite disciples were killed, and the elders of the immortal sects were killed. The exaggerated post on the forum had completely aroused the anger of the people of the two immortal sects. Even the powerhouses of the immortal sects were full of anger and killing intent when they saw the post. However, the sect master had already ordered them to deal with it personally, which made the disciples of the immortal sects look excited. If the immortal sect master made a move, the other party would definitely be killed. Now, they just needed to wait for the news. They just needed to wait for the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate to be killed and the Dragon Gate to be destroyed. A former force of the Jianghu dared to challenge their immortal sects. They were courting death. At this moment, at the top of a mountain peak, there was a small platform on top of the mountain peak, and 6 seats were placed on the platform. Curling white smoke rose from the mountain peak. At this moment, 6 figures stood on the platform, 2 white figures, 2 blue figures. There was also a golden figure and an earthy yellow figure. The 6 people stood on the mountain peak, and their faces could not be seen clearly. Each of them seemed to be a small world. Have you read the information about the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate? It's a little surprising. This Dragon Gate and the Dragon King are not simple. Since they dare to say such words, it's almost certain that they have the strength of an immortal god. No matter what, their actions are a provocation to our two immortal sects. If we don't destroy them, I'm afraid that all the immortal sects will laugh at us. We can't even deal with a force that once belonged to the Jianghu. It doesn't matter if they have immortal gods or not. There are a few immortal god experts who must be destroyed. With the 2 brothers Wind Devil, the 6 of us, even if they have 3 immortal god experts, will die. Don't worry, everyone. Since we've joined your immortal sects, we're already prepared to fight against a strong enemy together. It's still easy to destroy a force that once belonged to the pugilistic world. On the platform, the calm voices of 6 people could be heard. They were talking at a moderate pace. Jiang City's seaside villa. Let's go there. The 6 people moved and instantly disappeared from the peak of the mountain, flying towards Jiang City. Ming Wang Immortal Sect and Puppet Immortal Sect were not considered powerful immortal sects among the 20 immortals. Their overall ranking was below 15. In the past, the 2 immortal sects only had 4 immortal god-level powerhouses. Later on, due to a coincidence, 2 immortal god-level powerhouses were added. The speed of the 6 of them was extremely terrifying. In less than 10 minutes, they appeared at the villa area by the sea. Streams of terrifying energy swept across. Dragon King of Dragon Gate, come out and face your death. A calm voice rang out and covered the entire area. Oh! You came so quickly. At this moment, Wang Xian, who was staying in his room, smiled when he heard the voice. He wasn't too surprised by the arrival of the 2 immortals from the immortal sects. At this moment, the immortals were forbidden to make a move in the martial arts world. That was only an agreement between the immortal sects. The Dragon Gate wasn't part of the original agreement. Therefore, the immortals from the 2 immortal sects didn't have any reservations. There are 6 immortals. This is a little unexpected. Wang Xian sensed the 6 figures in the sky and revealed a look of surprise. According to the news, there were only 4 immortals from the 2 immortal sects. Now that there were 2 more, it was completely out of his expectations. However, so what if there are 6 immortals? The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he walked out slowly. You came quite quickly. His faint voice rang out in the sky. In a villa beside him, Ao Jian was holding a spiritual sword in his arms as he walked out of the villa slowly. Do you know your crime? When one of the immortals in the sky heard Wang Xian's voice, his gaze turned cold. Your disciple didn't discipline him strictly. In that case, I can only help you to kill him. 6 immortals, hehe, this is really unexpected. Wang Xian walked out of the villa slowly and raised his head to stare at the sky indifferently. This caused the immortals from the Ming Wang and Puppet Immortal sects to frown slightly. Too calm, too calm. It was as if they had already expected their arrival. This made their faces solemn and their hearts vigilant. There wasn't a single idiot among the immortals who dared to wait for them here. They must have their own background. 2 of them. The old man who was emitting an earthy yellow figure sensed the area below and said faintly, 2 celestials still dare to be so arrogant. They are really as described in the information. A white figure snorted coldly. Killing intent gradually surged from his body. Swoosh, swoosh. Wang Xian and Ao Jian moved and stood in the void. They stared at them who were 1,000 meters away. Hey! Suddenly, a look of surprise flashed across Wang Xian's eyes. He looked at the 2 old men who were emitting blue light. Hey! At this moment, the 2 old men were stunned as well. Their bodies stiffened. They stared at Wang Xian and Ao Jian in shock. Their eyes flickered. Dragon Gate. I really didn't expect that there would be 2 immortals. A white figure's body shimmered as a staff appeared in front of him. He stared coldly at Wang Xian and Ao Jian. Just 2 celestials and you dare to provoke us? Do you think that we can't do anything to you? Today, we are going to kill the celestials. A low growl came out from the golden figure's mouth as a strange golden puppet appeared beside him. The puppet was 3 meters in size, and it was emitting a sharp metallic light. You killed our disciples. Even if you are immortal gods, you will die here today. Numerous spirit tools containing terrifying energy appeared in front of them, and the pressure of immortal gods instantly covered them. 3 to kill 1. It's easy. Brother Windfiend, and Windfiend will take care of the middle-aged man who is emitting sword light. A white figure holding a scepter said with a cold gaze. Cough cough. The 2 old men with blue figures could not help but cough violently and looked around with some trepidation. Heh! The other 4 experts from the Ming King Immortal sect and the Puppet Immortal sect sensed the expressions of the 2 old men and immediately frowned. A hint of displeasure flashed in their eyes. Wind Devil and Wind Fiend brothers, the powerful enemy is at the front. Let's retreat. At this moment, an old man suddenly opened his mouth and whispered to them. This caused the 4 immortal gods to be completely stunned, and their faces revealed a stunned expression. Wind Devil and Wind Fiend brothers, what nonsense are you talking about? A hint of ice-cold voice flashed in the eyes of the 4 people as they stared at him. Chapter 730. Let's retreat, 8/20. Feng Shuo looked at the 4 people beside him with a slightly awkward expression. However, both of them looked at Wang Xian and Ao Jian with a twinkle in their eyes. Their eyes were filled with vigilance and fear. Damn it, that's right. It's them. It's definitely them. When they recalled what happened more than a year ago, cold sweat appeared on their foreheads. Seeing the young man staring at them with a mocking expression, the corners of their mouths could not help but twitch. Brother Ming, Brother Lu, we can't afford to offend them. Let's retreat. Their expressions changed, and they gritted their teeth as they spoke to the 4 people beside them. This caused the 4 immortal gods from the Ming Wang Immortal sect and the Puppet Immortal sect to be stunned, and their faces revealed astonishment. Can't afford to offend them? A look of astonishment flashed in the eyes of the 4 people, followed by a slightly unpleasant expression. Brothers Wind Devil and Wind Fiend, just tell us the specific reason. An immortal god from the Ming Wang Immortal sect asked them with a twinkle in his eyes. Cough cough, as you know, we come from the Yu Ding world. It's the only world in the 9 Ding world that doesn't have a world. Wind Devil said to them with a dark expression. Oh! The 4 of them slowly nodded. The world of 9 cauldrons already had 8 cauldrons. However, the world of Yu Ding was the only one that was missing. This made the immortal sects curious for a very long time. However, because the world of Yu Ding was in the middle of the ocean and was too far away from the other cauldrons, the immortal sects didn't know the exact reason. Later, some disciples of the world of the Cauldron of Yu ran out and said that their world of the Cauldron of Yu was destroyed. At that time, it shocked all the immortal sects. According to the descriptions of those disciples, Some immortal god experts guessed that it might be a terrifying existence in the ocean, or it might be the work of a powerful god from the OU continent. At this point, only 8 cauldrons were left in the world of the 9 cauldrons. As for the 4 immortal gods from the Ming Wang immortal sect and the Puppet immortal sect, they knew more than others. A year ago, when the Shunding world had just appeared, they had met Feng Morfeng Sho and Feng Morfeng Sho by accident. The two of them had been living in their immortal sect ever since. Later on, they became the honorary elders of their immortal sect. You're saying that the one who destroyed the immortal gods of the Yuding world and prevented you from appearing was... A white shadow's eyes flashed with a hint of shock as he couldn't help but exclaim. That's right, it's him. We remember him clearly. He's the Dragon King, and his strength is comparable to our sect master. The other one can turn into a terrifying biological sword. Besides the two of them, there's a creature that can hide in the void. He's very terrifying, and if we're not careful, he'll directly ambush and kill us. In addition, he also has an elder holding a turtle shell, a devil monkey that is emitting powerful devil chi, and a terrifying creature that is emitting lightning. Feng Mo and Feng Sho's eyes were filled with fear as they said bitterly. In the Dingyu world, the two of them were the weakest. The two sect leaders had reached the middle stage immortal realm, while Young Demon and Hong Ying were also at the peak of the lower stage immortal realm. However, the two of them were assassinated without a sound. In the eyes of the two elders, the Ming Wang immortal sect and the Puppet immortal sect were far weaker than their Dingyu world. At the very least, they didn't have a mid-level immortal. An expert who had destroyed their Dingyu world could easily destroy the Shunding world, which was even weaker than their Dingyu world. What they were doing now was courting death. The 4 of them were completely stunned. Looking at the young man who stood there looking at them mockingly, they instantly felt their scalps go numb. No wonder they dared to wait here so arrogantly. In an instant, cold sweat appeared on the foreheads of the 4 of them. Their strength was much weaker than Yuding worlds. If Wind Devil and Wind Fiend hadn't joined, a middle-level immortal would have been able to contend against them. Not to mention, apart from a middle-level immortal, he also had powerful subordinates. Gulp. Everyone couldn't help but gulp. What's the matter? Are we going to fight or not? The corner of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he asked them mockingly. He didn't expect to meet the two elders of Yu Ding here. Ahem, Dragon King, we don't have any grudges that can't be resolved. I think we should sit down and talk. Wind Devil coughed and said to Wang Xian with a smile on his face. The 4 immortals from the Ming Wang immortal sect and the Puppet immortal sect stiffened and didn't speak. At this moment, they didn't dare to speak. The other party was able to destroy the world of Yu Ding, which was 2 to 3 times stronger than them. It would be a piece of cake for them to destroy the Ming Wang immortal sect and the Puppet immortal sect. As for the disciples of the immortal sect who were killed, they could just kill them. They could only blame themselves for seeking death. After all, they were going to provoke an immortal god. The pressure of an immortal god should not be violated. As for revenge, it was even more ridiculous. It would be good if they could think of a way to not cause trouble for the other party. Moreover, the lifespan of an immortal god was 500 years. They had seen many life and death departures. The overall situation was the most important and the immortal sect was the most important. Shall we sit down and talk? Wang Xian smiled and swept his gaze across the 6 of them. This caused their expressions to tighten instantly. Sure, I'm not interested in fighting with you. Wang Xian nodded his head slowly. Everyone, come over. He moved his body and entered the room directly. The 6 of them looked at each other and withdrew their weapons before following him into the villa below. Please come in, everyone. Sun Lingxiu and Lan Qingyu poured a cup of tea with smiles on their faces when they saw the 6 immortals come in. The 6 smiled and nodded with a strange look on their faces. They were here to take revenge for the disciples of the immortal sect, and now they were sitting down to drink tea? What the fuck? It could only be said that a man could bend and stretch. Hello, Dragon King. Hehe, we'll get to know each other if we don't fight. The few of them smiled and sat at the side. Let me introduce myself first. Dragon King of the Dragon Gate is studying in Jiang City. Please take good care of him in the future. Wang Xian smiled and gestured at them. No, no, no. Although Jiang City is located in our Shunding area, we will ask our disciples to leave immediately since you are here, Dragon King, an elder from the Mingwang Immortal Sect said with a slightly ugly expression. There are only a few dozen disciples from our dragon sect. It doesn't matter if you are here or not, as long as you don't provoke me, Wang Xian said plainly to them. Don't worry. In the future, the disciples from the Mingwang Immortal Sect and the Puppet Immortal Sect will definitely not disturb you, Dragon King. With your strength, Dragon King, we wouldn't dare to offend you. The two elders of the Puppet Immortal Sect saw that Wang Xian was not a difficult person to talk to, but they still spoke bitterly. That's good. I don't want to be your enemy either. There are some things that I would like to trouble you with. Wang Xian smiled and nodded. This time around, he did not come back to be a king like before. Instead, he had some other matters to deal with. Chapter 731, Let's Retreat, 9/20. With the establishment of the Dragon Palace and the rise of the Water Tribe, Wang Xian had shifted his attention from the martial arts world to the ocean. When he returned to Jiang City, Wang Xian had 3 important things to do. The first was the Dragon Vein. When the Dragon Vein was fully formed, he could take it away. The second was about Shuqing. Currently, Guan Shuqing had yet to wake up. According to his guess and what Tang Yinxian said, it was because of her soul that she could not wake up. Wang Xian needed to collect spiritual herbs related to the soul to recover her soul. Or, he could look for a godly doctor who could heal the injuries of the soul. Thirdly, it was about the formation. Currently, the Dragon Palace was still short of the last formation, which could be upgraded to level 2. A level 2 Dragon Palace possessed the ability to move under the sea. Unfortunately, Wang Xian had rarely encountered an array formation, let alone a level 2 array formation. Furthermore, with the current strength of the Dragon Palace, they did not have the ability to dominate the entire Jianghu. Out of the 20 immortal sects, the Mingwang Immortal Sect and the Puppet Immortal Sect were considered relatively weak existences. Even so, each of their immortal sects had 2 immortals, not to mention the top-notch Shen Yuan clan. According to the current ranking of the immortal sects, the Shen Yuan clan was ranked first. There were 8 immortals in the clan, and there was even a superior immortal. With the strength of a superior immortal, he could easily kill a middle-level immortal. Please speak, Dragon King. When they heard that Wang Xian had no intention of fighting for territory, they heaved a sigh of relief. The initial dispute between the Celestial Sect was due to the issue of territory and territory. The Celestial Sect had hundreds of thousands or even millions of disciples. These people needed to be fed, so territory was very important to them. I want to ask if there are any formations and spiritual herbs that can grow or heal souls. Wang Xian asked them. Formations? Spiritual herbs that can heal the soul? The 6 of them looked at each other and said, there are very few spiritual herbs and elixirs that can heal the soul. It is possible that the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect has such special spiritual herbs. Other than the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect, is there any other immortal sect that has them? Wang Xian asked after some thought. He had a grudge with the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. If he were to ask for the herbs, they would probably start a fight. The Holy Medicine Immortal Sect and the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect were very powerful. They could be ranked in the top 5 among the immortal sects. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, they could at most contend with them. Other than the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect, the only other sect is the Innate Immortal Sect. The Innate Immortal Sect mainly cultivates the wood attribute. They have planted a large number of spiritual herbs. Wang Xian nodded slowly. Then, he looked at the 6 of them and said, thank you very much. If you have a level 2 array formation and information about spiritual herbs, please inform us. Don't worry. If we get any information, we will definitely inform the Dragon King. The 6 of them immediately promised. Wang Xian nodded his head and said, Jiang City is still your territory. Just don't let your disciples come and provoke me. In addition, I plan to open a forging shop in Jiang City to refine spiritual weapons and elixirs. To refine a spiritual weapon, you only need 2 sets of materials. For 3 sets of materials to refine elixirs, You can give 4 elixirs. You don't have to charge any spiritual stones. There is a prerequisite. You can only refine elixirs above level 6 and spiritual weapons above level 11. When the time comes, if you want to refine pills and weapons, you can look for me. Dragon King, do you know how to refine pills and weapons? The old man from the Puppet Immortal sect revealed an astonished expression. Wang Xian nodded his head. Can you refine a grade 13 spiritual weapon? Wind Devil asked hurriedly. Wang Xian shook his head. I haven't found any secret manuals regarding the formation of weapons. The secret manuals that were used to inscribe formations were not recorded in the Book of the Fire God that was in Ajaya's hands for some unknown reason. Currently, Wang Xian only lacked the method to inscribe formations to be able to forge a level 13 spirit weapon. A hint of disappointment appeared on the faces of Wind Demon and Wind Fiend. The weapon in their hands was merely a spirit weapon that was forged from a level 13 spirit weapon. It was equivalent to a level 12 spirit weapon. If they could find a Grandmaster in artifact refinement, they could directly upgrade the spiritual weapon in their hands to grade 13. Goodbye. After chatting for a while more, they left. Wang Xian watched them leave with a smile on his face. Phew. The people from the Mingwang Immortal sect and the Puppet Immortal sect who flew out heaved a sigh of relief. If Brother Fengshaw, the Wind Devil, didn't remind us this time, I'm afraid we would be in trouble. An immortal god from the Mingwang Immortal sect said with a bitter face. We didn't expect to meet him here. Fengmo and Fengshaw shook their heads. When we go back, order the disciples of the Immortal sect not to provoke the Dragon King of the Dragon sect in the future. An immortal god said with a solemn look, if anyone dares to provoke him, the Immortal sect's law enforcement team will punish him directly. Okay. The other 3 nodded. Provoking an opponent who was even stronger than them was undoubtedly courting death. Although they were amiable this time, it was hard to guarantee that some blind Immortal sect disciple would anger the Dragon King and become their enemy. Let's go back. The 6 people moved and quickly flew toward the Immortal sect. At this moment, it was only 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock was not a rest for most of the Immortal sect's warriors. A warrior could sleep for 5 to 6 hours a day. All the Immortal sect deacons and elders, come over. 2 immortal gods from the Puppet Immortal sect and the Mingwang Immortal sect came to the main peak of the Immortal sect, their voices directly covering the entire Immortal sect. The sect master and the others have already destroyed the Dragon Gate. It must be. The immortal god must have killed the Dragon King. Haha, maybe the Dragon King's corpse was directly brought here and hung on the city gate to warn everyone. Inside the Immortal sect, the disciples of the Immortal sect heard the sect leader's voice, and their faces were filled with excitement. One by one, the experts of the Immortal sect flew toward the main peak with excited faces. The sect leader and the others had just left. Now that they had returned, they must have finished off the reckless Dragon King of the Dragon sect. Sect leader, deputy sect leader. The experts of the Immortal sect came to the main peak and saw the 2 white figures standing in the middle. They called out respectfully. Sect leader, has the murderer been killed? The bald old man asked excitedly. When the 2 immortal gods heard his words, the corners of their mouths could not help but twitch. Fortunately, the white light covered their faces. Today, we will announce something. You will pass it on to every disciple of the Immortal sect today. The Mingwang Immortal sect's sect master raised his voice and said in a deep voice. Sect master, please speak. The group of Immortal sect powerhouses immediately bowed. From today onwards, no disciple of the Mingwang Immortal sect is allowed to provoke the Dragon sect or the Dragon King. Otherwise, the sect rules will punish them. The Mingwang Immortal sect's sect master ordered them with a firm tone. What? Everyone in the shop was stunned, and their faces revealed an incredulous look. If you don't want to die, then don't provoke them. They are not people that our Immortal sect can provoke. In addition, the Dragon King of Dragon Gate has opened a forging shop on the ancient street of Jiang City. Only 2 sets of materials are required to forge spirit weapons. 3 sets of materials are required to forge pills, and 4 pills are required to forge pills. No spirit stones are required. There is one condition: which is to only forge pills above level 6 and spirit weapons above level 11. It's quite suitable. If you want to forge, you can go there. Chapter 732, The Sky of River City, 10/20. Silence. In the hall of the main peak of the Ming Wang Immortal Sect, all the experts of the Immortal Sect were completely stunned. Their eyes were wide open and filled with disbelief. They couldn't afford to offend him. Their sect leader actually said that the other party was an existence that they couldn't afford to offend. This caused everyone's faces to reveal shock. Pass down the order. The two immortal gods of the Ming Wang Immortal Sect didn't want to stay here any longer. After all, this was a very shameful matter. The two figures moved and directly disappeared, leaving behind a group of Immortal Sect experts who were dumbstruck. Sect leader actually said that the Dragon Gate is an existence that our Immortal Sect cannot afford to offend. An old man's eyes flickered as he muttered. Lord Sect Master said that it was not an existence that they could provoke, which also meant that it was not an existence that their Ming Wang Immortal Sect and Puppet Immortal Sect could provoke. They knew that their two immortal sects currently had a total of 6 immortal gods. 6 immortal gods did not dare to provoke the other party. Then what exactly was the other party's existence? Just how powerful is this Dragon King of the Dragon Gate? In particular, the sect master actually said that we can go there to forge spirit weapons. Just how terrifying is the other party that made our Lord Immortal God lower his head? An elder said with an ugly expression. It was understandable that the other party was very powerful if they did not provoke him. However, the Immortal God said that they could go to the other party's place to refine pills and weapons. The indirect propaganda was that their Immortal God was completely suppressed by the other party. Otherwise, how could they publicize an enemy's weapon refining and pill refining shop? Send the order. Since the sect leader has said it, then the other party is definitely not someone we can offend. Don't let our Immortal Sect suffer a powerful enemy. The bald old man sighed slowly. If you want to blame someone, blame Laro Bai and the others for their bad luck. They provoked the Immortal God and were directly killed. It's their fate now. Okay. The group of Immortal Sect powerhouses nodded slightly and scattered in all directions. An opponent that even the sect leader didn't dare to provoke could possibly destroy their Immortal Sect. This Dragon King of the Dragon Gate, this former Jianghu force, simply shocked them. It was the same on the Puppet Immortal Sect side. For a moment, all the experts of the two Immortal Sects fell silent. Then, on the same night, a piece of news that shocked all the disciples of the Shunding world came. All disciples of the Puppet Immortal Sect of the Ming Wang Immortal Sect are forbidden to provoke the members of the Dragon Gate and the Dragon King of the Jiang City in the future. Those who violate the sect rules will be punished. In addition, the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate has opened a forging shop on the ancient street. It's more suitable. You can go there to refine spirit tools and elixirs. When this order was given, the entire Shunding world was shocked. Everyone's faces were filled with disbelief. Everyone's eyes were dull. Tonight, all the disciples of the Immortal Sect had angrily vowed to destroy the Dragon Gate and the Dragon King. In the end, the Lord Immortal God gave the order directly at night. What did this mean? They couldn't afford to provoke the Dragon Gate or the Dragon King. They even gave the order that if anyone dared to provoke the Dragon Gate and the Dragon King, the sect rules would be punished and the law enforcement team would punish them. They even publicized the other party's forging shop. Even if the elite disciples of the Immortal Sect were killed and the elders of the half-step Immortal God were killed, the Immortal God still gave such an order. Everyone's furious mood was instantly splashed with a bucket of cold water. Those disciples of the Immortal Sect who were about to say that they wanted to whip the corpse shut up. Those disciples who swore to take revenge also shut up. When the warriors of the aristocratic families in Jiang City received the news, their eyes widened and their faces were filled with shock. Their backer, the Immortal Sect they had joined, had bowed to the Dragon King. Although Jiang City was still the territory of their Immortal Sect in the future, the king here had changed. It was still the same old king. The Dragon King was still the Dragon King. In just one night, Jiang City had changed. The next morning, Wang Xian came to the school and began his leisurely life as a student. In the school, the students greeted him respectfully as senior and student Wang Xian. When the disciples of the immortal sect met Wang Xian, they even called him Dragon King in horror. This made the rest of the students dumbfounded. The high and mighty disciples of the immortal sect had never placed them in their eyes. Now, when they met Wang Xian, they greeted him even more respectfully than they did. "Boss, you are so awesome. The immortal sect is bowing its head. You actually made our immortal sect bow its head." Wang Dahai stared at Wang Xian in shock and shouted loudly. "The Ming Wang immortal sect knows about our relationship. They didn't make things difficult for you, right? If they make things difficult for you, tell me." Wang Xian smiled and said to Wang Dahai, No. Now, because our relationship is better, the immortal sect asked me to maintain a good relationship with you. They even gave me a lot of rewards." Hee. Wang Dahai said happily. "That's good." Wang Xian smiled and started to chat with Wang Dahai. Meanwhile, the group of Draconids entered the Jianghu and started to gather information. The appearance of the immortal sect made the information of the Ji Tian group almost useless. It was very, very difficult for the Ji Tian group to enter the immortal sect. Therefore, the group of Draconids had to go there personally. The Draconids were already able to take charge of their own affairs. There was no need for them to do anything personally. All they had to do was wait for the result. They sat on the fishing platform and watched the storm with a smile. Dragon King, the first-grade pavilion has been transformed into a forging workshop. It has been completed. After school in the afternoon, Mo Qinglong came to Wang Xian's side and said to him, "So fast." The transformation was completed in one day. Wang Xian asked in surprise, "Dragon King, we asked the disciples of the Puppet Immortal sect to help us with the renovation. They are very fast in this aspect." Mo Qinglong said to Wang Xian, "Oh, let's go and take a look. If the renovation is done, we will start our business in 2 days." Wang Xian said with a smile. Refining artifacts and pills was the fastest way to obtain resources. As long as his forging workshop was publicized, it would be even faster than robbing money in the future. At this moment, in the region of the Yellow Cauldron World. The Yellow Cauldron World had a total of 3 immortal sects: the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect, the Hunyuan Immortal Sect, and the Upper 9 Immortal Sects. Of the 3 immortal sects, the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect and the Hunyuan Immortal Sect had always been enemies. As for the Upper 9 Immortal Sect, they belonged to a neutral force. The 3 immortal sects were evenly matched. The Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect had 1 middle-level immortal, the Hunyuan Immortal Sect had 3 lower-level immortals, and the Upper 9 Immortal Sect also had 3 lower-level immortals. Overall, the difference in strength between the 3 immortal sects was not too great. It was basically impossible to devour or destroy the other party. "I've made a breakthrough. Haha, I've finally made a breakthrough." In one of the mountain peaks of the Chaos Origin Immortal Sect, the Golden Mountain Peak looked abnormally dazzling. An old man with disheveled hair roared with excitement on his face. Streams of golden liquid flowed around the old man's body, and the terrifying energy was completely restrained. Congratulations on the Grand Elder's breakthrough. Beside him, a middle-aged old man looked at the old man with excitement. Chapter 733, Beauty Saving Hero 1, 11/20. My cultivation base has broken through. In the future, the resources in the Yellow Cauldron domain will have to be redistributed. Streams of golden liquid flowed into the old man's eyes as he slowly walked out. After walking out of the mountain peak, he looked towards the position in front of him. "Grand Elder, your current strength is completely comparable to Ling Xiao. Heaven and earth, it's time for our Chaos Origin Immortal Sect to take control." The middle-aged man next to him said with a twinkle in his eyes, "We'll go straight to the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect and ask them to hand it over." "That's right. As long as we occupy the heavens and earth, our immortal sect will be able to nurture even more elite disciples." The old man next to him echoed, "There's no rush, there's no rush. Ling Xiao once killed my son. Now that my cultivation base has broken through, I'm completely unafraid of him. Hehe, I'll let him experience the pain of losing his own son too." The old man's expression was slightly malevolent as he spoke with a fierce gaze. The middle-aged man and the old man by the side were slightly startled. They frowned and said, "Grand Elder, now that we have signed an agreement, immortal gods are not allowed to fight among immortal sects. The disciples of our Chaos Origin Immortal sect are slightly inferior to the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect. Isn't there the Chaos Origin formation? Let the disciples bring the Chaos Origin formation. We have been fighting with the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect for hundreds of years. This time, we will completely suppress them and kill all their disciples, especially their son. With his son's talent, he will definitely become an immortal god in a few decades." The old man slowly opened his hand, and a large knife slowly condensed. Pa! He squeezed his arm, and the large knife immediately shrank into metal fragments, which scattered on the ground. "Kill him! Kill! Ling Xiao once killed hundreds of our elite disciples. Today, we will pay him back tenfold." These 2 days, the Immortal Sect will be discussing the first Immortal Sect disciple competition. The Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect only has one immortal god. Ling Xiao has to rush over. This is the best time for us to make a move. The 2 middle-aged elders also had cold expressions on their faces. "You did well today. Tomorrow, bring us to that Jinming mountain that you mentioned." In Yellow Heaven City, Xiao Yu raised her eyebrows in satisfaction and said to Feng Lingtian, all right. Young Miss Xiao Yu will do whatever she says." Feng Lingtian smiled and nodded as he said with an apologetic smile, "Come early tomorrow, hehe." Xiao Yu raised her head happily and walked into the restaurant. Elder Fan watched from the side with a smile on his face. The corners of his mouth revealed a meaningful smile. Phew, luckily she's in a good mood today. Damn it, she's been on tenterhooks all day. Tomorrow is the last day. Hurry up and send this god of plagues away. Seeing Xiao Yu and the others enter the restaurant, Feng Lingtian wiped the sweat off his forehead and let out a sigh of relief. "Anyway, my father will leave tomorrow morning. He doesn't have to train in the morning. He'll just stay in the city for one night. Hee. Teacher, let's go. We'll play for one more day today. We'll go back tomorrow." The next morning, Xiao Yu knocked on Elder Fan's door and shouted, "Xiao Yu, you can go by yourself. Later, the previous elders of the Thorn sect have something to ask of me." Elder Fan opened the door and said to Xiao Yu, Then how boring would it be for me to be alone?" Xiao Yu pouted unhappily. "Isn't there Ling Feng accompanying you?" "Master can't accompany you today," Elder Fan said with a smile. Okay. Xiao Yu could only nod and walk out. "This girl isn't young either." Elder Fan looked at Xiao Yu's back with a smile. Unknowingly, Xiao Yu was already 22 years old. "I think I'm already 31 years old." Elder Fan shook his head self-deprecatingly. A figure appeared in his mind and shook his head again. "Let's go, little slave." Walking down the stairs, Xiao Yu saw Feng Lingtian downstairs and nodded at him in satisfaction. "Young miss, I'll bring you to eat a delicacy first." The corner of Feng Lingtian's mouth twitched as he said to Xiao Yu, "Let's eat while walking. It's the last day today, we have to stroll around properly." Xiao Yu said with a smile, "Young miss, can you be more ladylike? How can you eat while walking?" When Feng Lingtian heard her words, he could not help but exclaim. In the Yellow Cauldron world, the ancient rules were still maintained. Women had to be reserved when eating, and there was no eating while walking. It was very disgraceful. And the thighs under this skirt. Feng Lingtian could not help but take a look. There was no woman in the Yellow Cauldron world who wore such revealing clothes. "What are you talking about?" Xiao Yu raised her eyebrows and looked at him. "I'm talking about eating while walking. It's helpful for digestion." Very good, he. Feng Lingtian's expression changed and he quickly said, "Your desire to live is quite strong." Xiao Yu glanced at him and walked on the street like a young lady bringing her servant along. The people in Yellow Sky City were already used to this scene. They had also accepted the fact that their crown prince had become a servant. They should be heading to Jin Mingshan. They must go to Jin Yaotai to go to Jin Mingshan. Make preparations there. There's another girl who is very powerful. According to the information we received, Elder Jin and the others died at the hands of this girl. That girl came from the Dragon Gate, which used to be a big force in the Jianghu. We don't know anything else about her. The murderer who killed Jin Kunming? No matter who she is, kill them all, yes. In the sky, a mirror reflected the figures of Xiao Yu and Feng Lingtian. Beside a middle-aged man, there were more than 10 people standing around. The middle-aged man in the middle concealed everyone with the strength of an immortal god. Even the 4 strange demons who had been following Xiao Yu all this time did not notice that there were people in the sky. This is Mount Jinming. You've never seen a golden waterfall before, right? Mount Jinming was located at the junction between Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect and Hunyuan Immortal Sect. It was a mountain that was 1,000 meters tall. A waterfall was left behind on the mountain peak. At the spot where the waterfall had washed over, the mountain was golden. In the morning, under the sunlight, the entire waterfall was also golden. It's so beautiful. Let's go, take a few more photos of me later. Xiao Yu looked at the golden waterfall with a face full of pleasant surprise and ran towards it. You don't even recognize it. Why are you running? Xiao. I'll bring you to a good place to watch, the golden platform. Feng Lingtian raised his head and acted like he was familiar with this place. Only by doing so could he regain some of his pride. Then why aren't you leading the way for me? Are you asking for a beating? You. Hello. Feng Lingtian immediately increased his speed and led the way towards the golden brilliant stage. Oh! Suddenly, Feng Lingtian narrowed his eyes and looked at the group of people standing on the golden brilliant stage. On the golden platform, there were more than a dozen people standing there. All of them were from the Chaos Origin Immortal Sect. However, Feng Lingtian did not care. He raised his head and walked forward. Although the 2 immortal sects were enemies, they did not have time to fight because of the appearance of the immortal sects. In addition to the fact that the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect was relatively stronger, Feng Lingtian was even more fearless. Chapter 734, Saving the Hero 2, 12/20. Hey, you people of the Origin Immortal Sect, get lost. Lingtian held his head high and shouted at the dozen or so people on the golden platform. Although he looked like a coward in front of Xiao Yu, his strength and talent were incomparable in the entire Yellow Cauldron world. The name of the Avildor Crown Prince was not given for nothing. The younger generation of the entire Yellow Cauldron world was really doing whatever they wanted. Hehe, I was wondering who it was. So it's the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect's Crown Prince. A middle-aged man looked at Feng Lingtian and said with a smile. Since you know it's me, move aside immediately. The corner of Feng Lingtian's mouth curled up slightly. He slowed down his footsteps and stood shoulder to shoulder with Xiao Yu. He raised his head slightly and said, "Let me tell you, my reputation as the Avildor Crown Prince is not for nothing. In the entire Yellow Cauldron region, who would not give me face? Wow, you're quite powerful." Xiao Yu curled his lips in disdain. That's not true. Feng Lingtian raised his head and puffed out his chest as though he felt that this was the proper way to behave. He brought Xiao Yu towards the golden platform. Move aside, can't you see that this young master is here? Feng Lingtian said arrogantly. With this attitude, he was definitely a silk pants. Hehe, since the Crown Prince is here, we will naturally give you some space so that you and the beauty can enjoy this beautiful scenery. An elder said indifferently. Feng Lingtian pretended to nod his head coldly in front of Xiao Yu. This is the best place to admire Mount Jinming and the waterfall. The 2 of them walked over and the dozen of them took the initiative to open up a path. Feng Lingtian pointed ahead and introduced the path to Little Feather. Whoosh, whoosh. However, at this moment, the 2 elders beside them instantly moved. A sharp long sword suddenly appeared and attacked Feng Lingtian and Little Feather's vital points. Not good. The moment they attacked, Little Feather's expression changed slightly and his body was instantly covered by black bone armor. A shield appeared on his left and right, and a bone whip appeared on his right hand. He propped it up with both hands. Pa pa. The sound of metal colliding could be heard. Feng Lingtian, who was at the side, was shocked. He only reacted the moment Xiao Yu blocked the dagger. What a quick reaction. 2 surprised voices could be heard. followed by a terrifying aura erupting from the surroundings. A golden light surrounded the two of them. You dare to attack me? You're courting death. Feng Lingtian felt the murderous aura around him, and his expression changed drastically. He looked at the long sword that was blocked by his side, and his forehead was full of cold sweat. Just now, if it wasn't for Xiao Yu helping him block, he would have been heavily injured or even killed. This is your so-called territory? Little Feather turned around and asked with a serious expression. The two old men who attacked them were both half-step immortal gods. If she hadn't cultivated in seclusion for a year, she wouldn't have been able to block the attack. He, our crown prince is really arrogant. Since this is your territory, I'll let you be buried here forever. An elder revealed a mocking smile on his face. They were not worried at all when their attack missed. Instead, they stared at them with a cold smile. If you dare to attack me, my father will definitely not spare your Chaos Origin immortal sec. Feng Lingtian's expression turned cold as he stared at them warily. Your father? Haha, so what? Since our Chaos Origin immortal sect dares to attack, we are not afraid of your father's revenge. Little brat, you are definitely going to die today. An elder with a broken arm stared at Feng Lingtian mockingly. Little brat, do you still remember me? One of my arms was cut off by you. Today, I will chop you into pieces. If you want to kill me, all of you are not qualified to do so. Feng Lingtian was a little angry. Just a moment ago, he was telling little Yu that everyone in the Yellow Cauldron region had to give him face. In the end, he was instantly slapped in the face. If Xiao Yu hadn't saved him, he would have been finished. The feeling of being slapped in the face was burning hot and painful. He wasn't worried that he would be left here. With the shadow evasion technique, he could definitely escape. Aren't you bragging now? Xiao Yu turned his head and looked at Ling Tian with some ridicule. He didn't care too much about the dozen people in front of him. Although the group of Draconids did not follow him, there were still 4 strange demons around him. With her own strength, even if she stayed behind to fight with them, she would still be able to destroy them. Let's leave this place first. Wait for me to call someone over to let you see how this young master will teach them a lesson. Feng Lingtian's face turned red as he gritted his teeth and said, All right. Xiao Yu smiled and nodded. Keek, as expected of our crown prince. He's still so confident at this moment. TSK, with a beautiful lady accompanying him, it's better for you not to leave today. Even if you want to leave, you won't be able to. An old man with a white beard and the length of a palm laughed and said, Wang. Just as he finished speaking, a golden light suddenly flashed in the surroundings. Hey! Xiao Yu and Feng Lingtian were stunned and quickly looked around. Chaos Origin formation. Feng Lingtian's expression changed drastically and a trace of fear appeared in his eyes as he exclaimed, Since we have made a move, Crown Prince, do you think we will let you escape? The white-bearded elder laughed as he said. A dozen people slowly surrounded the two of them. What is Chaos Origin formation? Xiao Yu saw Feng Lingtian's expression change and asked him curiously. Origin formation, a grade 2 formation. It is the mountain-protecting formation of the Origin Immortal sect. Once the formation is activated, even immortal level experts will find it hard to enter. Similarly, the people inside will not be able to leave. The Origin formation's defense depends on the area it covers. If it only covers a radius of 4 to 5 kilometers, even a high-level immortal would not be able to break it. Feng Lingtian said with an ugly expression. The Crown Prince is really smart. The white-bearded elder beside him praised with a smile. Looks like you guys are really trying to kill me. Feng Lingtian's expression was extremely ugly. Only the effect of defense. Xiao Yu narrowed her eyes slightly and said to Feng Lingtian. Only defense. Feng Lingtian gritted his teeth. Today, we are considered to have fallen here. It's me who dragged you down, doomed my ass. Look at your cowardly face. I will protect you. Xiao Yu looked around with a relaxed expression. There were a total of 15 people, 13 infant realm experts, and 2 half-step immortal realm experts. They were ready to fight. Great Aunt, if we can get out of here alive today, you can call me your slave in the future. Feng Lingtian looked around and his heart trembled slightly. It was true that he was a demonic crown prince, but that was only when compared to the younger generation of the same level. The group of people in front of him were several times his age. In particular, the spiritual weapon in the other party's hand was not inferior to his at all. It was already very impressive for him to be able to fight against 2 infant realm experts alone. He clearly did not believe that Xiao Yu was able to deal with 2 half-step immortal gods and 11 infant realm experts. This time, the odds were against him. Chapter 735, Beauty Saving the Hero 3, 13/20. I don't have any land, I don't need a mule, I don't need a horse, I just need a servant. Hearing what Feng Lingtian said, Xiao Yu's lips curled up. All right, if I can get out today, I, the crown prince, will be your servant. Feng Lingtian gritted his teeth and scanned his surroundings vigilantly. Hehe, I will definitely take you in as a servant. The bone whip in Xiao Yu's hand began to grow longer and slowly split into more than 10 pieces. So it's still a pair of lovebirds. It's so good to have a companion on the road. Kill. The white-bearded elder saw Xiao Yu's confident expression and his eyes revealed a cold expression as he shouted. In an instant, a terrifying blade light and sword light formed and the aura of a golden mountain filled the surroundings. Feng Lingtian's expression changed drastically. Pu. However, at the instant his opponent attacked, piercing sounds could be heard. Not good, there are people around. A middle-aged man saw a white figure suddenly appear behind the old man in front of him, and his terrifying claws directly pierced through his body. His expression changed drastically as he shouted loudly. Bang, 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 bang. The 4 strange demons directly pushed down the 4 corpses. Their bodies were suffused with white light as they retreated backward. The white light began to slowly dim. 10 seconds later, it disappeared again. The 4 white figures that suddenly appeared instantly attacked and killed 4 people. One of them was even a half-step immortal god. The people from the Chaos Origin Immortal sect were stunned. Their faces were filled with fear as they hurriedly stopped the attacks in their hands. Feng Lingtian was also stunned as he stared at the corpses on the ground in disbelief. Gulp. Those 4 figures, that what? My brother sent them to protect me. Your father is an immortal god, why didn't he send some experts to protect you? Seriously. Xiao Yu glared at Feng Lingtian and said unhappily. What the fuck? The corner of Feng Lingtian's mouth couldn't help but twitch. His brother sent him here to protect her? With his strength reaching the infant realm, how could his father still send people to protect him? For an infant realm expert, you could only send people to protect an infant realm expert at most. Why couldn't you send a half-step immortal god to protect him? There were only 3 or 4 half-step immortal gods in the entire immortal sect. Was this possible? Impossible. With his strength, there wasn't much need to send an infant realm expert to protect him. This was because his strength was already strong enough among the infant realm. If he really encountered a strong enemy, he could run even if he couldn't win. But now, compared to this young miss in front of him, he was simply a poor prince. The other party was already a terrifying existence of half-step immortal gods. It didn't say that there were 10 infant realm experts following him on the surface. There were even 4 terrifying hidden experts in the dark, killing 1 half-step immortal god and 3 infant realm experts with a single move. Amazing. This protective force was practically invincible under the current situation where the immortal god was forbidden to make a move. This grandaunt is fucking awesome, my little life is finally saved. Feng Lingtian's eyes revealed an excited expression, almost waving his flag and shouting. Little slave, calm down, there's still 1 half-step immortal god and 9 infant realm expert. Xiao Yu waved his hand at him with a smile on his face. Hehe, there's still a bunch of scum like them. Young miss, you can handle them all by yourself. After surviving the calamity, Feng Lingtian gave up on his bottom line and said with excitement. How is this possible? The white-bearded old man widened his eyes and scanned his surroundings vigilantly. His scalp was slightly numb. There were actually 4 terrifying experts who were good at hiding around her to protect her. What kind of fucking identity did she have to have such experts to protect her? Didn't they say that she was from a faction in the pugilistic world? When did she become so perverted to casually send 4 such terrifying existences to protect a young girl? Fuck. The remaining 11 people did not even need to attack Feng Lingtian and Xiao Yu. Now, it was time for them to be wary of the attacks around them. They tried their best to sense their surroundings, but they did not sense anyone. This made their expressions even more awkward. It's our turn to attack. Don't be so useless. Pick 2 and leave the rest to me. Xiao Yu held the bone whip in his hand and swung it forward. More than 10 bone whips were like poisonous snakes, coiling around the experts one after another. Haha, if you want to kill this young master will kill all of you today. Feng Lingtian's face revealed an excited expression. The 6 spirit swords in his interspatial ring instantly attacked the 2 infant realm experts. Damn it. The faces of the people from the chaotic origin immortal sect were extremely unsightly. The side that originally surrounded and attacked was actually attacked now. Kill. The experts from the chaotic origin immortal sect braced themselves and instantly went up to meet the attack. Numerous golden sword lights and saber lights slashed towards the bone whip. HMPH, you think you can kill me? Xiao Yu snorted coldly. The bone whip in her hand shook, and numerous sword lights and saber lights directly scattered. Her body moved, and she stood up to attack the white-bearded elder. Chaos golden saber. The white-bearded elder's expression changed slightly. He gritted his teeth, and the golden saber in his hand trembled. A resplendent saber light seemed as if it was about to pierce through the void, slashing towards Xiao Yu. Peng! The shield in Xiao Yu's left hand blocked, easily blocking the elder's chaos golden saber. You're courting death. She waved her right hand continuously, and bone whips that emitted terrifying demonic chi shot towards the 9 people around her. Peng peng peng. Golden door-shaped defenses appeared in front of them, blocking the bone whips. Arth. Right at this moment, 4 miserable cries sounded, and 4 terrifying white figures appeared once again. Haha, awesome. When Feng Lingtian heard the miserable shrieks from the side, he turned around and revealed an excited expression. It's over. 4 more infant realm experts had died and there were only 7 out of 15 of them. The 7 experts from the Chaos Origin Immortal sect revealed expressions of despair. Sir, quickly remove the formation and let us out. The white-bearded old man's eyes revealed a look of fear as he shouted loudly. Everyone was originally in the Chaos Origin formation to prevent Feng Lingtian and Xiao Yu from escaping. However, it had now become their cage, making it difficult for them to escape. Everyone was terrified and wanted to order the immortal god controlling the formation to remove it. At this moment, 4 to 5 people were standing in the air above them. Their expressions were extremely ugly. Sir, Elder Jin and the others have failed. Should we remove the array formation? An old man said with some fear on his face. The flawless ambush attack and even the use of the immortal sect's Chaos Origin array had actually failed. That terrifying 4 white shadows and that powerful girl. Even if they were watching from here, they felt their scalps go numb and some fear. The body of the middle-aged immortal god in the center was slightly trembling, and his eyes were filled with a crazy killing intent. No need. Call all the infant realm experts of the immortal sect over, and bring over the immortal blasting stones.